Another one of those. For the ball. He's gone for it and he's hit it as well. A fantastic 1-6-4 there from Ted Everts to save the fixture. What a finish that is from Ted Everts.
Can he just bump off the barrel? The answer is yes, he can. Emphatic.
And it is tops for the match.
Yeah, very good evening. Welcome along to the MODUS Super Series where Group B is about to kick off tonight. Is it going to be a toy story for Ted Everts? He was toying with the field for the most part of Group A. We're going to find out over the next couple of nights whether he makes it through to Saturday night's final. Happy to say alongside me on stage is the asset pool. Before we talk about tonight's action, let's have a quick reflection on Group C this afternoon where John O'Shea, despite losing his first game of the session, tops a pile going into day two.
I think it was a really good afternoon's campaign from John. I think, yes, he played decent in that first game and lost it, averaged just over 90, but the way he was able to still win 4 more matches from there, even though his doubles percentage wasn't particularly brilliant, I think it just goes to show that the fighting spirit of the Joker is still very much there.
So that was Group C. That resumes tomorrow from 1 o'clock. But tonight it is all about Group B. And really, it's a group that just cannot disappoint, can it, when you think about the names that are in the field?
I don't think so. A lot of people have been speaking about Group B over the last 36 hours or so. And when you look at who's in this group, you've got Taylor, you've got Montgomery coming in for his debut, a long-awaited debut, obviously. But you may look at someone like Lee Cox, who is a mainstay of this project, as maybe the one person who has got the most to do. That is credit to this lineup. And Lee is just coming off a very decent Q school. So this group really shouldn't disappoint.
Well, let's round everything up then as far as Group B is concerned. Let's go and have a look at the outrights to confirm the field and to see where the odds compilers look. And the two players that dropped out of Group A, Scott Taylor, Ted Everts, they're the joint favourites at 13-8. Do you agree with those odds in your eyes? Because there's a man at the bottom of that pile who's been very successful on this side of the sport in the past.
Right, I don't mean to get on my soapbox, and I don't do this very often, but look at Ross Montgomery, the most experienced player and the winningest player on that list at 9-1. Give me the gavel, let me put it down and say, that is ridiculous. He's still got a great game in his locker, and it's repeated success that we've seen from Montgomery over the course of his career. He's won a seniors event recently. It's not as if he's playing badly because he's dropped off the tour. It's just, this is part of his journey. He could easily win this group, and at 9-1, that's phenomenal value.
And I just wonder as well, because he would have seen those pictures, because there's a monitor that outlays what we're broadcasting now in the practice room. I feel like he'd be the type of player that would have seen that for, right, I'm proving you wrong here.
Take it from personal experience. You don't back against anyone from Scotland. The moment you do that, they will get their back up and say, oh, I'll prove you wrong then. And the moment Ross sees that, and he's playing in game 1, you might want to watch out Scott Taylor, because that's his first opponent.
Elsewhere in the field, David Evans, perhaps the unspoken man as far as this group is concerned. But we've seen here in patches. We saw him obviously on the Pro Tour. There's a level that's there, but is it fair to say maybe we don't quite know where exactly it is at this present moment in time?
Very fair indeed. I think with Dave, when he was playing this project in its infancy from home in 2020, he was the man. Nobody played as good as he did for the period that we played from our own homes. Obviously, when that was finished, he had an incredible challenge tour and became a tour card player for 2 years. But since the end of that Pro Tour stint, we're not sure where Dave is at. And I really want to find out in 2024.
Well, it's an intriguing group. Let's have a look at the bet builder for tonight. Pays just under 8-1 this evening. Ross Montgomery, match winner there against Scott Taylor, 6-5. Ted Everts in the handicap against Lee Cox. And then in the game between Everts and Montgomery, over 94.5. It's an interesting bet builder tonight.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. You look at Montgomery, the speculation of that game, I think, changes because of what we've just seen with those outright betting numbers. So Scott Taylor is a nightmare opponent at any time on this stage. 6-5 from Montgomery, I can get behind that, but if there's going to be any result there, for me, it's going to be 4-3 either way. Handicap with Everts and Cox, I'm not sure. I just think Lee is still playing pretty well, and he's maybe meeting Everton in the middle. I don't think that's very accurate. I may be proven wrong, but when you're going for a match checkout of over 94.5, it's always a bit of a punt. But you've got to back these kinds of players to get something like 96, 104, something like that.
Well, it's 18 plus, and begambleaware.org if you want to have a flutter on the Super Series to see. I just get the feeling, speaking to you, that out of the 5 players, I'm not quite sure that you quite know how this is going to pan out when you consider the calibre of field we've got in front of us.
I don't. Neither does Matthew Edgar, and neither do some of the punters. That's why this is such an intriguing Group B. And the fact that it's in week 12 as well, going into Champions Week, somebody could spring out of this group, and it could be one of the 5. They might be very rich when it comes to money and titles in the next 9 days. That's the beauty of playing Group B and, of course, playing the end of week 12 going into Champions Week. You can see £25,000 in front of you if you play brilliantly for 9 days.
Be intriguing to see. Our first match of the evening sees Scott Taylor in action. He won a week here at the Super Series in 2023, averaged 109 in getting the better of Andy Bolton in that particular final. He takes on Ross the Boss Montgomery, first time on this particular stage for the Scotsman, having dropped off the PDC Pro Tour at the back end of 2023. And earlier on this evening, I caught up with a 2-time Dutch Open champion to assess his thoughts on this stage, this setup, and what he expects for the next couple of days. Ross, very warm welcome to the MODUS Super Series. Just had a little bit of a look around the surroundings. How's your first impressions of the place?
Yeah, it looks good. It looks a good venue. I was up on the stage having a wee throw, and yeah, it seems fine. Yeah, it's comfortable.
Also, you saw you just drop off the Pro to the end of 2023. How do you say the darts are at the minute?
Yeah, my darts are okay. I played in the seniors last weekend, which was quite a interesting weekend, meeting some old faces, and I managed to win an event. But yeah, it's good. New things happening for me now, and I'm going to have to make my book a bit thicker, I think.
Is this nice little peer for yourself there? Now you've got new opportunities, new horizons opening up for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, getting my tour card was how can I put it? A surprise to me, basically, because I didn't think I would get it, but getting it, then I had to sit with my manager and sit with sponsors and speak. But now I'm going to be even busier now, I think, because of the things that are going to happen. And I didn't have this busyness in the 2 years I had a card. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and just need to keep myself fit so I'm active.
And in terms of here, you must really fancy your chance, but it's a very, very tough group, this.
Oh, it's a hard group. I know the players well, and I don't expect anything but hard games. So I need to keep my focus and hit those doubles.
Well, I wish you all the very best. Rod, good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Montgomery takes on Scott Taylor in his first match of the evening, the first match of the evening here at the Live Lounge in Porto. It really is a group that promises to excite, can't really disappoint, you sense. And Matthew Edgar yesterday on the balcony said that he feels like this is a week balling up potentially to a big average and to a 9 darter. We will hold him to those particular words. Well, to kick off our evening, it is Montgomery, it is Taylor, Matthew Edgar's in the commentary box, and Paul Nicholson's joined him up there. Hi, guys.
A very good evening once again, Henry, and Scott Taylor, who is 32 years of age and almost half the age of his opponent. I'll say one thing, Matt, as you join me for Group B action this week in week 12. Montgomery looked great for 61. And if you think, because he's over the age of 60, that he's coming into the twilight of his career, yeah, maybe he is in numbers, but he's still winning. Jack Garwood is your referee tonight. And what are your thoughts, Matt, ahead of this Group B campaign? Because I can't pick a winner, can you?
I can only echo what you've already said in the fact that this is going to be a very, very tough group in relation to certainly the levels and the standards. We've seen Scott Taylor here already for 3 days. He took part in a Group B campaign and was averaging well over the 90 mark in terms of those 3 days of action, peaking with a 107.36 that he hit
first leg. It's Ross
on
to throw first.
Monday in game number 4.
Game
But
on.
this is a great way to start things off with a man that's picked up 17 WDF ranking titles, but the one that really grabbed my attention was the one that we just saw
36
on the graphic while Ross was having his practice. Not just one Dutch Open, but 2.
43.
Now, the Dutch Open has just played this past week. 3,421 players.
100.
Played 3,420 matches. There was a round of 4,096, Paul, in that event.
100.
Quite a lot of players when you think about it, isn't it?
Well, they have to play it over 2 days, don't they? Because there's just too many players to sort
42.
of get it all done in one. So they have a round up to the 64, then they play it down to sort of the quarterfinals, then it goes to a stage round.
60.
You're trying to tell me that Ross Montgomery is really good at playing 2-day campaigns, because that bodes well.
I'm also saying Ross Montgomery might have a bit of darting
81.
stamina.
I don't think that's ever been in doubt. When you've won such events like the Welsh Open twice,
140.
the Dutch Open twice, like you've mentioned, the Belgium Open twice, and the British Classic twice, you need staying power. You need stamina.
100.
And he mentioned fitness in his interview with Henry.
158.
He's focusing on that in a very busy year. And it will be busy, and we'll tell you why in a second.
134.
Let's see if he can take the
Russia require
142
142.
to take this first leg of the night. What's he going to do? Does he know now? He was toying with the idea of staying, but he decided to move.
94. Scott, you require 24. No score.
That was a
Russia
great
require
opportunity
48.
here for Scott Taylor to give Ross Montgomery a slow start to life here
Game
at
shot
the
on the
Super
first
Series.
leg.
Instead,
Ross Montgomery.
gets over the line and holds on to his throw for the early lead.
Yeah, we'll get on to Scott Taylor in due course,
Second leg. It's Scott to throw first.
because I really, really
Game
do
on.
rate Scott Taylor. I always have. I still think he's got his best starts ahead of him.
99.
But Montgomery mentioning in that interview with Henry just how busy he's going to be. Put it this way, he's one of those players in a select bracket
140.
that can almost pick where he plays every week. MODUS Super Series, Challenge Tour, Seniors, WDF,
45.
independent events. He can play pretty much wherever he wants. And if he plays well on the Challenge Tour, he might even get call-ups for the Pro Tour as well.
Let's also remember another interesting fact here
30.
with Ross Montgomery, in the fact that, yes, he went and got that Pro Tour card, and as we know, the Pro Tour, you go into like a bubble
95.
almost, where you're completely detached from the darting world. When Ross Montgomery went into the tour, compared to where he's come out of it, darts has changed so much. When he first got his card, there was no
97.
MODUS Super Series. There was no Seniors Tour. Now he's got opportunities to regularly be playing darts on TV,
55.
probably more than he has when he's had a card for the last couple of years.
Yeah, too true. And it's not just Ross. It's a lot of other people as well. People that he's been playing very recently.
84.
He won a seniors event very recently, the Open Series number 5. And he beat some good players to get that first
95.
senior title,
Russia require 150.
including beating Kevin Burness with a 105.83 average in a 6-leg game in a semi-final only a few
38.
days ago.
Scott, you require 112.
Taylor for 112 to stop Ross from getting a shot at that very number. Double top.
Game shot on a second
And that's
leg.
why we rate
Scott
him.
Taylor.
Because he's just very, very good.
Third leg.
He's
It's
from a
Ross
part
to
of the
throw
world
first.
that
Game
you
on.
can't walk 50 metres without running into a really good dart player. And you think I'm talking from a certain part of my
43.
posterior? I'm not lying. You walk around Bolton, Manchester, anywhere in the northwest of England, you'll run into a decent dart player wherever you go. Are they all as good as Scott Taylor? Probably not. But people per mile, I reckon,
76.
in the northwest of England, better than anywhere on earth at the minute.
Scott Taylor has also been on the PDC Pro
131.
Tour, and he actually reached a final of one of those Players' Championship events, only narrowly missing out on picking up a Pro Tour title.
100.
His game is still there.
134.
And it has a chance of getting better. He doesn't necessarily have to find a new ceiling. He's looking for the big C, isn't he? Consistency. He finds that. And that A-minus game or that B game starts to improve.
Scott, you require 140.
Everyone will take notice.
It's the one thing we've picked up on this week as saying it's been a real
55.
positive to seeing Scott Taylor,
Ross, you
because he's
require
somebody who,
142.
when he goes behind, just sort of berates himself almost. Certainly if he's not playing to the level he expects of himself. We've seen some real true fighting qualities.
120.
And he's going to need that
Scott, you require 85.
in a night like this, because you're not going to have everything your own way. It doesn't matter how good you are. In a night like tonight, you're going to be up against it.
Game shot on the third leg.
But he's
Scott
in the lead.
Taylor.
Courtesy of that 15-darter. I don't know whether it's just the shirt he's wearing
Fourth
as well.
leg,
But
it's Scott to throw first.
he looks like he's
Game on.
more heavily built these days. He looks like he's been hitting the gym. I could be wrong.
140.
But he's always thrown those darts very firmly. As for Montgomery, that rhythm has never changed in that long career that he's had to
100.
date. That poise just before he delivers the dart with a real float. He doesn't throw it with force.
77.
Look, that step on the oki, back, towards the oki, back, through. The rhythm is orchestral.
He is a player as well that grips
60.
the dart quite close to the point as well. That's why you'll see he's almost got a, what we kind of class as a backwards dart, really, isn't it? It's like the upside down.
100.
It's normally, when people have a sort of scallop, it's normally in the middle or towards the back.
Did you just reference Stranger Things?
If I did, I didn't mean to, because I ain't got a clue what it is.
You just referenced Stranger Things. You've just gone up in my estimation. New series of Stranger Things this year.
88.
And there will be a new series here in Portsmouth after Champions Week next week and Specials Week, where it will be double start not that long from now. We'll give you the lineup of that
58.
at some
Scott,
point
you
during the
require
night
96.
to get your taste buds tantalised. Taylor's a bit erratic there with 81 left with 2.
30.
And he doesn't like dart
Ross, you
number 3
require
either.
158.
To get a
94.
firm grip on this
Scott, you
game for
require
Scott Taylor.
66.
He gets 2 darts at the target
Game
that
shot on
cost
the
him the
fourth
opening leg.
Scott Taylor.
He could have had this one done 4-0. But he does take full control of this fixture.
Fifth
The
leg,
bookies had
it's
this
Ross
one
to throw first.
as 6
Game
to 5
on.
for Montgomery. And at this stage, they look like they know what they're talking about. Taylor off to a very good start, but
83.
has still got a job to do. Remember, if you're having a flutter on any game tonight or any aspect of a game, please remember it's over 18s only. BeGambleAware.org for more
54.
information. Please gamble responsibly. That side-on stance of Montgomery has never changed. You know how some people, they throw for maybe 15 to 20
100.
years and they have this evolution with the throw. If you put his throw right next to his debut at Lakeside, it'd probably look identical.
135.
Well, we'd have a big sample of matches as well to look through. 13 times he's represented himself at that World Championships.
Yeah, made his debut back in 2006.
58.
But I think Ross wouldn't mind me saying this. His Lakeside record is nowhere near what he wanted.
140.
One quarter-final from 13 attempts. For someone of his ability and his winning stature within
85.
that system for over a decade, I'm sure he was livid at what happened at Lakeside the majority of his career.
And it was the way of those defeats as well, wasn't it? Quite a sizable scoreline on most
96.
occasions. But I'm fully in agreement with you. If you're winning the titles that he has, you would have expected certainly a better record at the Big E.
Well, look at it this way. Not everybody can have
83.
glorious
Scott, you
records
require
at venues.
76.
Not everybody can have that here. Scott Taylor's won a weekly title here.
Game
And he's
shot
won the
and
first
match,
game of the
Scott
night as
Taylor.
well in Group B. That really was a very decent display from Scott Taylor, averaging over 90 in that contest. And that's what he's been doing all week long. Slightly under his weekly average of 92.18, but with 57% on the doubles, he only gave Ross Montgomery one dart at a double. Coincidentally, Ross hit it. However, Scott Taylor starts with 2 points. Montgomery will have to come back against Lee Cox in Game 3 to get his first 2. When we come back, it will be Dave Evans and Ted Everts going toe-to-toe after this.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series. So before the break, Scott Taylor got the better of Ross Montgomery by 4 legs to 1. With a 112 finish, aiding and abetting the man's Scott's cause there. Next up, David Evans up against Ted Everts. David, first appearance here for him this week, up against Ted, who missed out on Group A glory right at the very last. Right, let's watch this one in the company of Matt and Paul.
Many thanks. Welcome back to Stretch Dave Evans, hometown of Preston, a town I know very, very well. As far as Ted Everts is concerned, he's from Warwickshire, one of the best players that Warwickshire's ever had, and a former world youth champion, and one of the best cooks on tour. Makes the best chocolates, does Ted. And I'm going to get this off my chest immediately. Ted, you didn't bring us any chocolates. I'm not talking to you. And I don't think he's got his tools with him to make some for tomorrow. So you'll have to make Champions Week, go home on Sunday, and then bring them next week, Ted.
First leg, it's David.
But what's going to be
first.
sweet is if he makes it
Game
through
on.
to Saturday night, if he gets in the top 3 in this Group B campaign. He did make it in the top 3 in Group A, but that doesn't get you to Saturday night, does it, Matt?
60.
I'm more concerned about these chocolates still at the moment.
You're not aware of it?
Even if he brings them, I'm still not going to get any next week. I'm not here.
I'll save you some. You haven't had a Ted Everts chocolate yet?
No.
140.
And ironically, he lives about 5 minutes away from me.
Well, I've just rumbled you, Ted. Sorry, you're going to get knocks on the door at 11:30 at night saying Edgar's hungry. Yeah, he turned up at the Pro Tour about
96.
18 months ago. Last Players' Championship event of the year. He texts me and he says, I've got some chocolates down here. And I said, are these the ones that you make? I think they were raspberry and Prosecco. They were unbelievable.
43.
And everybody said, can I have one? We were rationed to one each. They were genuinely one of the best chocolates I've ever tasted. So,
108.
well, he can make some if he gets through this group, but Dave Evans is going to give him a lot of problems. We're talking about a former Group A winner and someone who has amassed 28 points in a Group A campaign before.
115.
Just to echo what you said at the start of the show, when this first started and darts was at home, pretty much every time I
127.
logged onto the internet, there was just a table with David Evans sat at the top of it, and it was like, who's going to lose to David Evans today?
I was one of those players. I remember beating him once. I think I played him about 15 times. He was just
40.
incredible.
David, you
playing
require
from home.
38.
Double 14. Down to the bottom left corner.
Game shot on
And he
the
takes the first leg in
David
15
Evans.
darts. He looks really comfortable. And after a couple of years on the Pro Tour where he looked
Second
anything
leg,
but
it's Ted to throw
comfortable,
first. Game on.
we're almost asking the question of Stretch at the minute. Where's your game at? What's going to happen for you this year?
42.
It's a somewhat harsh question to ask when it's only February. But I do wonder if we had a time machine and we went forward 6 months, where would Evans be? Where would he like to be, do you think?
45.
Well, I think the first and most important thing for him is to pick up a MODUS Super Series title. Because again, as I can only echo the words you said at the start of the show, they were so spot on in the fact of
46.
this is a good time to play. Win this week, straight into Champions Week. You're almost on like say a 9-day crusade here where you don't just think about this group. Think big picture.
140.
Think about next Saturday and the journey that you could go on to pick up that £25,000.
100.
Well, let's think about someone like Willie Borland, who won the very first week of this series. He's not going to be here next week because he's got a PDC Pro Tour card once again. But had he been here next
134.
week, we can't really gauge the form of Borland from what he did here to Champions Week because the gap is too great. But we can gauge from, say, week 10, week 11, week 12 into Champions Week. So we can look at Tom Sykes. We can look at Reece Colley. We can look at the winner of this week.
You know what it's like? The second you win anything, you almost feel invincible
125.
for about 4 days. After those 4 days, it starts to wear off and slowly come back to normality. The winner of this week is already going to be playing again before that decline comes back to that normality
59.
It might be Monday
David,
morning
you
as
require
well.
57.
We'll get to that on Saturday. We'll give you the lineup and where people will play once week 12 is completed. How about leg 2 completed?
37.
Not quite.
Ted, you
Everett
require
needs something to happen here.
120.
He's not playing particularly well so far. He needs a catalyst. It's not going to be this one. Ted seems to have
60.
a few less grooves on his
David, you
darts these
require
days,
20.
which is maybe focusing his attention as to where his grip should be on the barrel. Whereas Dave is using something which is a bit more uniform. He'll hate that double 5.
No score.
Chance
Ted, you
missed.
require 60.
Everts is lucky to be coming back.
I don't think many legs will be won tonight where we go into that sort of 20 plus darts bracket.
40. David, you require 20.
And Dave's got to hit this at the first start.
Game shot on his
Otherwise,
second
it
leg,
would have been
David Evans.
20 darts thrown for both players in that leg. But Evans, somewhat cagily walks back to
Third
the hockey
leg,
now.
it's David to throw first.
It's not a leg he'll be proud of,
Game
but
on.
he's happy he's won it.
Characteristically slow start here for Ted Everts. He's someone who has a
58.
very measured action, very robotic approach. He's someone you just sort of imagine this real model of consistency.
You spent much time in Preston,
99.
where Dave Evans is from?
No, I don't think I have ever been to Preston, actually.
You never turned off junction 29 on the M6? Going towards Preston?
59.
Never done that? Would you like to know a darting fact about Preston?
It's where David Evans is from.
Oh, that's a given, obviously. That's where Fallon Sherrick won her first major title.
85.
World Darts Trophy. And the rest is history.
58.
Super Ted needs to dig deep here. Scoring-wise, he will be feeling quite lost at the minute. And when you consider he's averaged 90.61 for the week, with
57.
33% on doubles, 20 maximums in 3 days. And he was within one win of winning Group A as well, at the expense of Sebastian Białecki.
100.
He didn't get the job done, but it's not because he played poorly. He just came up a little short. Now the job in Group B is, I suppose, a little bit more lenient because 3 players go through out of 5. But the group of
100.
players he's surrounded by are not going to make it easy at all.
Well, 4 results had to go against him for Ted Everts not to win Group A. And it did. A very rare situation.
134. Ted, you require
Ted ended
160.
up finding himself in a Group B where, so like we said, he's looking a little bit tight. Some of the darts looking a bit tight, looking tight in the shoulders, looking a bit fidgety at the back of the stage at times.
30.
Struggling to find
David, you
his
require
range in this
92.
opening game. But you're never out of a Group B. Certainly not after the first fixture.
However,
So on the
he is
third
3-0
leg,
down.
David Evans.
And Evans, with that 17 darter, is pretty much playing to type.
Fourth leg, it's Ted to
Because
throw first.
his average
Game on.
for this game is 17 darts per leg. He's thrown 51 darts to get those 3 successes.
99.
One more might be good enough because Everts is only averaging 75. This is very uncharacteristic.
There won't be many times you'll be saying that again.
96.
He's played a lot of early matches this week. Group A, of course, starts at 9:30 and finishes around 2 to 2:30. This is a 9:45 start PM. I hope he's not suffering from the old dart lag.
100.
It is a tough switch around to do. Certainly on night 1. Just getting that sort of body clock all set in terms of the
180.
dart in time. But David Evans knew when his time was. It was around about 10 o'clock he'd be starting on Thursday and Friday. And frustration now clear to see in Ted Everts.
29.
It's just not happening. And he's becoming very aware of it.
Looks very switched on, doesn't he?
105.
The stretch. Looks very focused on one mission, and that's to get this done in 4 legs. You're not going to see Stretch do silly things on 120. Now, I've only seen 2 players in all my time at the
96.
Super Series do
David,
3
you
double
require
tops on this.
120.
Rhys Robinson and Greg Ritchie. Dave Evans is not going to add his name to that because he doesn't need to. He does have the luxury of going for the treble 16 here if he wishes.
60.
But he stays traditional. He will come back for the 2 darter. Everts has had 2 darts at double this whole match.
If David Evans can take out the 60, he won't be getting any
97.
more.
David, you require
It's an opportunity
60.
for David Evans to get the match wrapped up and start with a bit of perfection.
This has been very solid.
Game shot. And the match,
Extremely solid.
David Evans.
That is a 14 dart leg to add to the 51 darts that he threw in the first 3 legs. That really is an excellent start to his campaign. Averaging over 92, 40%, which is always the kind of barometer that you want to have on your doubles throughout a campaign. That was the personification of tidy. But for Ted Everts, he's got some thinking to do, and he's got a couple of games to get it right before he plays Lee Cox. Coxie's going to join us in our next game. He's going to be up against Montgomery of Scotland, and that game is coming up straight after this break.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where David Evans got off to the perfect start, getting the better of Ted Everts by 4-0, averaging 92.5 and 4 out of 10 when it came to the finishing. Right, we have seen 11 out of the 12 players that are going to be taking part in Week 12. Lee Cox, the last player we have yet to see in the Super Series. In Series 6, he takes on Ross Montgomery, who is looking to come back after a 4-1 defeat against Scott Taylor in his opening match of the night. Right, let's watch this one in the company of Matthew Edgar and Paul Nicholson.
Thank you very much once again. Another player having a bit of a shirt clash with Ross Montgomery is the crafty Coxie, the London County captain. But what a great point from Henry, that Lee Cox is the last man to dabble in Series 6. Is that going to mean something to him? He's waited a long time to come back. It's been a few months since we last saw him.
Lee to throw first. Game on.
Here's the thing for Coxie. He has got a record that he wants to improve. Making Saturdays here in Portsmouth, 7 attempts, 1
55.
success. He wants that to change. And it must start here.
It did hurt him last time as well. Lee Cox
100.
was questioning his future in the sport after missing out last time. He's been knocking on the door and he's just not been able to step through it here.
140.
But I do feel this is the sort of thing you need, a group like this, a really tough group. Because I think sometimes when you've got that sort of opportunity and you see the opportunity, it adds its own pressure.
140.
I think he'll come into every game tonight potentially feeling a bit like the underdog. And I think that might help him.
Well, over the last couple of years, I've seen Lee throw a few different barrels. This is new on me, this one. This is a Gerwin Price barrel. And they look fairly used as well.
168.
They're not straight out of the packet. So they must have had some wear and tear.
I believe the story goes he was actually playing against Daryl Fitton. And Daryl Fitton
40.
advised him on
Lee require
a different setup.
138.
And after a couple of weeks, he went back and he went, do you know what? I'm going to just try that just to see. And he saw instant improvements. He's stuck with it ever since.
122.
Well, if he wins this week, Darryl, stick the invoice in the mail. But it seems to be working in the first leg. He's left double 8 after 12.
91.
We'll talk about his
Lee
Q-School
requires
campaign
16.
in a second.
Getting
Well,
shot on
let's
the
talk about
first
it now
leg,
because he's
Lee
already
Cox.
1-0 up with a 13-dart leg. Not many people were talking about
Second leg, it's Ross to
Lee
throw
Cox
first.
when it came to
Game
Q-School.
on.
He averaged 86.04 in 19 matches. And as far as how close it was for him to get to the Pro Tour,
58.
it was 1 point. Exactly. It had nothing to do with leg difference in the end because he had plus 14 in his leg difference. Had he got one more point, he would have edged out Adam Hunt in spot 10. 1 point.
140.
Just goes to show how close he was to fulfilling the ultimate dream. I've spoke to Lee Cox on many occasions, and that's what he wants. He really wants to be
100.
PDC tour card holder, and he'll continue to go to Q School until it happens, and he's getting closer.
I said to him earlier tonight, their loss is our gain. Because it feels like Lee is just part of the furniture here.
98.
He was always at Southampton. He's been here since the start. He walks through the door. Just feels like another opportunity for Lee to get some glory. And I do get the feeling if he makes Saturday here, he would bring quite a few people. Because Crawley is not that far away.
This is
90.
a mighty fine start,
Lee
this from
require
Lee Cox.
121.
On for another big power leg. Double 14 for a 1-2-1
Gets on
out.
his
And
second
what a
leg,
start
Lee
this
Cox.
is. Just 25 darts from Lee Cox to take a 2-0 lead
Third
against
leg,
Ross the
it's Lee to
Boss.
throw first.
Tell you what, I'm going to go and see Daryl
Game
Fitton.
on.
Well, I'll race you.
100.
Do you work alongside Daryl?
Yes, I do nowadays, actually, yeah.
Oh, future bodes well for you. You're going to the Scottish Open next week, aren't you?
Yes.
60.
Yeah, it'd be a good event, that. Over about 350 entries so far, I believe.
Just 350.
So far.
That'll change.
No
100.
tables or chairs either, I believe. No place to sit.
Judging by some of the stories I've heard over the years, he might not have a practice board either. I wonder if Montgomery's going to go.
60. $39.
I'll tell you one reason why he might. Because he's never won it. And for somebody who is very passionate about his country, he's played
11.
for his country a ridiculous amount of times over multiple generations. But he's never won the Scottish Open.
He
98.
actually won the WWF World Cup team event in 2013.
83.
And he has been a
Lee
Scotland
require
captain as well.
164.
Overseeing an awful lot of people coming through, but in this game right here, he's being swept
84.
aside by Coxey, that's for sure. 80 left after 15 is a regression of form, considering what he's done in the first couple of legs. That really is a compliment.
99. Lee require 80.
With Montgomery losing his first game of the night 4-1, he's in real trouble here.
Game shot on the third
Wow.
leg. Lee Cox.
3 from 3 on the doubles from Lee. Still averaging over 104. This new version of Coxey, I like what I
Fourth
see.
leg, it's Ross to throw first.
If you used to ask
Game on.
Lee Cox why he's not a PDC tour card holder, he'd tell you it's because I miss my doubles. That's what he puts it down to. He thinks his
180.
weakness is the outer ring. It's not tonight.
I always thought that Lee's ceiling was
96.
very good. That maybe this kind of performance was in there, but he just didn't really know how to get there more often. After seeing Lee
100.
multiple times here in our previous studio, I thought that maybe it was the mental battle. Obviously, a very good dart player. He
140.
wouldn't have the experience levels and the invitations here if he wasn't good enough. But I always thought,
60.
does he genuinely believe that he's as good as he thinks he is? I said no. And I think he needed to convince himself that he was good enough. This performance
55.
to me tells me
Rossi
that
require
he is good enough.
161.
And he should believe that. So give yourself a break, Lee. You are good enough if you can do things like this. He's never going to go for that.
121.
Never in a month of Sundays.
Sets it up beautifully, though, to give Lee Cox a taste of his own medicine here. A potential 13 darter for
100.
Ross
Rossi
Montgomery
require 40.
to prevent the
shot
whitewash
on the
and
fourth leg,
continue
Ross
this
Montgomery.
incredible double hitting within this fixture.
Ross Montgomery has had 3
Fifth
darts
leg,
at
it's
double.
Lee to throw first. Game on.
And he's coming towards the end of his second game. That's how well people have played against him. Ross is averaging over
82.
90 in this contest. And he's only been afforded 2 darts at the outer ring. Welcome to the Super Series, Ross.
I'd be like, can I go back to the
41.
Pro Tour and have a break from all this?
I think the gap between the players at the MODUS Super Series and the Pro Tour, that gap is very thin these days.
140.
It seems to only be getting thinner as product becomes more and more globalised. Partnerships with ADC Europe and players joining us from
140.
Asia, Australia, New Zealand.
Is there anybody we really want to see here this year that we haven't seen yet? A new debutant?
45.
I'm really looking forward to seeing 2 people, both of which I think are going to thrive in this environment and really thrive to the point where I don't just see them as potentially weekly
60.
winners. I think they're potentially Super Series champions.
Do tell.
Danny Baggish,
Interesting.
92.
Jeff Smith.
Concur. I really want to see Lawrence Ilagan here. Yes, please. And Tomoyo
94.
Goto.
Lee
And can we
require
just have John Norman
142.
Jr. every week?
I do believe you can get a direct flight from Nova Scotia to London Gatwick, which isn't too far away. It's only a 5.5 hour flight. Nice darts from Lee,
94.
setting up a chance to win the match. And if he gets it in 2, his averages are going to be very, very close to 100.
98.
To put Ross
Lee require 48.
into the box a second time. First dart missed at a double,
Game
but it's
shot.
followed
And the
by
match,
success
Lee Cox.
on tops. And Lee Cox has just averaged 98.42. and has just sent out a statement to this group. Earlier in the night, we said that maybe he was the one that was being asked the biggest question of, can you get through this group? If you keep doing that, Lee, you're going to have an excellent chance of making the top 3, that's for sure. Montgomery has already lost the first 25% of his fixtures here in Group B. Scott Taylor, who beat Montgomery in his first game tonight, is about to take on Dave Evans, who made mincemeat of Ted Everts in Game 2.
Welcome back to the live lounging porter for the MODUS Super Series. Before the break, we saw Lee Cox get the better of Ross Montgomery by 4 legs to 1. Destructive display as well. 98.42 average, 4 out of 5 when it came to the finishing, and a high out of 121 in there as well. Right, next up for us, 2 players who won their opening matches go toe-to-toe. Scott Taylor faces off against David Evans. Watching this one down in the commentary box, Matthew Edgar and Paul Nicholson.
We're still here, and we are eagerly awaiting this one, because it is a Northwest derby.
First leg, it's Scott to throw first. Game on.
Wouldn't be surprised to see this in any local final up in the northwest of England. 2 of the best players in that region of the world, who are not on the PDC Pro
60.
Tour, but will definitely fancy getting the weekly job done here, Matt, because when you look at the fact that Białowieski's in Saturday night, these 2 are playing well, winning already tonight.
180.
Do you think they're both going to qualify through this group over the next 24 hours or so?
100.
They've both got a chance. It looks, at the moment, likely, on the basis that
140.
Ted Everett started really slowly and Ross Montgomery's lost 2 already, but Group B, anything can happen. And we've spoken about how tight we expected this group to be. And we've had Scott Taylor winning 4-1, David Evans winning 4-0, and Lee Cox winning 4-1.
I get the feeling, Matt, that these 2 are quite comfortable playing against each other, and that bodes well for everybody watching.
137.
This is a ridiculous start to this game.
161.
And Evans is on Motown after 9.
64. David, you require 44.
4. No tops. And no
34.
10s. That
Scott,
single
you
4 was a
require
worry.
97.
That was so far from the centre of the single.
It almost looked as if he was trying to hit the treble. And sometimes players do
57.
that just to keep the focus.
David, you require 10.
It would have left him on double 16.
Double 2.
6. Scott, you require
That could be
40.
costly. He might just be losing his first leg of the night.
Game shot on the first leg.
And it is.
Scott Taylor.
And Scott Taylor somewhat sheepishly says, oh, okay, I'll take it. I'm not sure how I got it, though.
Second leg.
Let's
it's
go
David to
into
throw
that
first.
treble 4
Game on.
possibility, because it might just have been a bad dart. But why? I mean, I don't want to go too deep with my words, because
98.
I don't see any logic in it.
I think sometimes people have these routes that just allow... I'm not saying he did do that, by
96.
the way. He might have just been
Somebody will.
a bad dart. But it looked too close to the treble to suggest that... So, if you go for the treble, you hit the treble, keep the focus, go to double 16.
135.
But if you miss, you still get the opportunity to go to tops.
Yeah, but we're talking about a game in millimetres here, and we've seen so many missed
28.
singles today from very good players. The risk-reward ratio is just off for me. Big single 4, margin for error, use it.
98.
Going for treble 4, you hit it, okay, fair enough, you got 32. What if you're slightly too high? Slightly too low?
131.
Single 18,
David, you require
you got double 13.
170.
There's a treble either side that'll bust the whole shot.
Yeah, it does get a bit dangerous in that sense, and be interesting to know. Might be a question to ask him at a
98.
later stage, because I know sometimes on shots like 42, some people will look at the treble on the 10 for the double 6 for the same reason. Try and keep focus rather than just
38.
throwing into an
David, you
area.
require 72.
Where's he going to go for this one? Treble 16? Now that treble I can get behind. And that's a
Shot on
much
the
better
second
dart.
leg, David Evans.
At double top this time.
Third leg, it's Scott to throw first. Game on.
I just want to go back to when Dave Evans was playing from home one more time, because we got to know each other so well.
177.
When we had the likes of Evans, Richie Edhouse, Martin Adams, Diogo Portela, myself, Mark Webster, and a few others.
93.
Back when we had to call our own scores, do our own calculations, it was just... It feels like a lifetime ago.
95.
Imagine if we did that again.
I think that was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, that wasn't it?
I sincerely hope so. It was an education.
91.
Some people thrived on it, some people didn't like it at all.
It was like resetting the world, wasn't it?
140.
This is an excellent game so far, both averaging high 90s in the early stages.
93.
I can't call this one.
Scott, you
Looks
require
like Taylor's going to
89.
take the lead. But I wouldn't be surprised if Evans was to bounce back in the next couple of legs.
49.
This fixture and the way it's being played almost stipulates what this group could be like. Very hard to call.
100. Scott, you require 40.
There it is,
Shot on
tops
the third
again.
leg, Scott
Got it in the
Taylor.
left half in leg number 1, and in leg 3 gets it in the right half, which means that when we play leg 5, he's
Fourth
probably going to
leg,
hit it
it's
right
David
in the middle.
to throw first. Game on.
It's like the left and right version of Strike It Lucky, isn't it? Top, middle and bottom.
60.
Left, right, and middle. Top, middle, or bottoms just sounds a bit better, doesn't it?
Wonder if he's going to hit the hot spot.
180.
Taylor is continuing to play at an excellent level. Averaged over 90 when beating Ross Montgomery in Game 1 tonight.
59.
Throughout Group A, he was excellent. Maybe just missed a few key doubles to cost him a chance of winning that group.
140.
But he's playing with a vigour already here this evening that tells me that he refuses to lose his perfect qualification record for Saturday night.
100.
Averaging comfortably over 100 at the moment, Scott Taylor. Something he's done twice already this week. 104.04 and 107.36. Back-to-back that was. Fixtures 3 and 4 on Monday. And he's looking like he could add another one to that column here. Just 44 after 9 darts 44. To try and break the throw of David Evans.
Notice how he didn't go
shot on a 4 flag, Scott Taylor.
That treble 4. He's hit the middle of tops. He's hit it all over the spot now.
5th leg,
3-1
Scott
up.
To throw first.
Got the darts in this leg. He
Game
could
on.
be doubling down on 4-1s here tonight against very dangerous opponents. He's playing so well that he may not be denied
99.
at any point. It's not as if Evans is playing poorly. In fact, he's around about the same average as his previous game, which was enough to win 4-0. You do tend to find when you're playing someone like
60.
Scott at the minute, who's playing so beautifully, that your average automatically goes up because you have few and far between shots at approach shots and shots at double.
42.
Well, Scott Taylor's only needed the 3 darts at a double here. 100% on the outer ring.
98.
Following in the footsteps here of Lee Cox in those opening few exchanges.
Would you like a really interesting statistic?
Oh, of course.
96.
And I'm going to pay homage to one of our staff here, Taylor Neller, who does a fantastic job on our social media. I conversed with him earlier, and I've added tonight's statistics to what he gave me. 43
80.
games have been completed here this week out of 63 with an average winning over 90. That's close to 70% of the games this week have been won with an average over 90. That is ridiculous. And that proves everything you've said over the last few days about the quality of week 12. This is one of the best weeks we've ever had
56.
here.
Scott,
Statistically, probably even better than a Champions Week. The guys next week are going to have something to live up to in their quest for the £20,000 top prize.
David, you require 167.
Taylor gets a crack at that 75 and takes it. It's going to be a 4th consecutive game, one with a 90-plus average tonight.
190.
Best average of the night so far. We've just
Scott,
seen it
you
from Lee
require
Cox,
75.
98.42. Taylor's got tops again. And he hits it again. A
Scott
remarkable
Taylor.
doubling performance at the top of the shop from Scott Taylor. 4 double tops hit. And he's hit them all with his first attempt as well. That is incredible. That does not happen very often. And 98.44 is only just the best average of the night. He's beaten the previous effort of Cox by 0.02. Taylor looking really, really good with 4 points in the table. David Evans with a bit of a stutter there, but when he goes back to the practice room, he won't mind too much because he was outgunned by his fellow Northwestern. When we come back, it will be the 5th game of the night, and big time darts coming the way of Ted Everts. He needs to take on Lee Cox next.
Welcome back to the Modus Super Series, where before the break, Scott Taylor was going a loco down in Acapulco. 4 tops to seal his game against David Evans from 4 attempts. A 98.44 average for him to seal a second for 1 victory of the night. So we very quickly raced into our middle match of the evening session. Ted Everts up against Lee Cox. Cox beating Montgomery by 4 legs to 1. Ted Everts looking to recover from a 4-0 defeat against David Evans. Matt, Paul.
Game number 5 of the evening, and Ted Everts comes back for his second game. He's hoping that it's better than the first. He was done to 0 by Dave Evans, who has just been done 4-1 by Scott Taylor, who is rampant this evening. Really good stuff from Scott. Averaging around mid-90s for the night.
First.
And his
Game
doubling
on.
performance so far has been exceptional. 8 hits from 11 shots at double so far. My word, that really is world class. But what has to change in this game, surely, Matthew Edgar, is the scoring for Everts.
95.
Because in that first game against Evans, it was close to non-existent.
A long way off of what we expect from Ted Everts, and a long way off the standard of this group. And if
100.
Lee Cox is to replicate anything like that performance of last time, Ted Everts is going to have to find a good 14 plus points on his average. We know he's more than capable.
140.
Just about to say, if he planted a maximum there to get his first of the evening, maybe that would give him a little bit of confidence going into the rest of this match.
96.
Considering what he averaged for Group A over 15 games, it was a reduction of 14 points from his group average to what he did in that first game. That was a severe drop-off.
59.
But you look at people who have had long campaigns over the course of a week with us, they're entitled to a bad game, as long as that doesn't metastasize into a
100.
bad campaign in this group. He must arrest the mini slide and get himself some points soon. Lee's already got some, which takes the pressure off him somewhat in this contest.
59.
Look at that grip of Lee Cox on that dart. It's feather-like.
140.
Glides the dart through the air. It's a
Said you
beautiful
require
thing.
148.
The grip very much towards the point. I said it was unusual earlier when Ross Montgomery's done it, but 2 of the players in this group gripping the point well past that balance point.
98.
Yeah, grips
Lee, you require
on
65.
darts are like fingerprints. None of them are the same. Double top.
45.
Didn't like either of them.
Said you require 50.
And Everts is about to get his 3rd dart at a double for the night. Is he going to get his first leg? He does
18.
not.
Lee, you require 20.
Is that a blocker for Lee? Might have to go the other side. He does.
10.
And he can't find it.
Ted, you require 32.
This time it's an open bed for Ted.
Game shot on
It's
the
got a
first
certain ring
leg.
to it, hasn't
Ted
it?
Everett.
An open bed for Ted. And Ted is super there to get his first leg of the night.
Second leg.
And if
it's
you aren't
Lee to
aware,
throw
Premier League
first.
Darts has just finished in
Game
Berlin. And the winner of the Berlin Premier League this evening is Michael van Gerwen, beating Luke Littler in the final by 6
43.
legs to 5. Littler missing 2 darts at double 10 to win. Van Gerwen taking at 25 for the victory. So very many congratulations to Michael. And we now focus our attention on leg 2 here between Everts and Cox.
99.
Well, speaking of Premier Darts, I've actually had some communication from the semi-finalist of the PDC World Darts Championship this year, Scott
140.
Williams, a player who played quite a lot in this environment during his progression onto the PDC tour. And he actually agrees with something you said tonight, Paul Nicholson.
94.
And it's regarding those chocolates of Ted Everts, the raspberry and prosecco chocolates. He firmly vouched. And Scott Williams, let me tell you, he's a man who understands
60.
food.
Well, it just goes to show that he knows chocolates because they were elite.
And pies as well. He advised me on certain pies which are amazing. He even makes his own pies as well.
56.
Why am I just knowing this now? He's got a great taste in socks, great taste in chocolates, and I'm learning that he's got a great taste in pies.
60.
Unfortunately, not a great taste in footwear, though. Those yellow shoes are a bit hideous, aren't they?
I think they're a pretty subjective pair. That's a nice pair right there. Pair of treble 20s. To set up a chance to double his lead. Lee is not playing with the same ferocity as he did in his first match tonight, that's for sure.
Ted, you require 100.
You see this quite often, don't you? A player come up, have a really big performance, a big average, and then they come up and struggle to sort of replicate. It's as if, like, a big
88.
performance becomes more of a burden.
You require 98.
I had a 98 checkout this afternoon from Ola Holtkamp, but he did it off the back of a maximum and a 174 for 8 perfect darts.
$42.
Everts has got the
Ted, you
northwest
require
corner
24.
for a 2-0 lead here. I'm sure that looked good in the air. Double 3.
18. Lee, you require 56.
Oh no for Ted.
That wasn't the intention. It's not too much damage done, though. Still gets a dart up towards the top end of the board at the double 12.
44.
Was he put off by
Ted,
his
you
own dart
require
going in the
6.
double instead of the single?
He's certainly frustrated.
Can't really afford to be that aggressive with dart number 2 here, but that's a
Shot on the
wonderful
second
shot
leg,
from Ted.
Everett.
Sometimes you got to win fairly ugly, and at the minute, this is winning ugly.
Third
We've been
leg,
spoilt
it's Ted to throw
tonight
first.
with the standard.
Game on.
Everybody averaging over 90 with their wins. Sometimes well over that 90 mark. In fact, every game that we've seen tonight has gone up a level. 90 to 92,
140.
98 plus, and then Taylor took it microscopically a little bit further north than that of Lee Cox from game 4.
108.
But there's still time for this one to catch fire. The last thing you want to do is give someone a 2-0 lead in this format. Lee knows that. He's played hundreds of games with us. This is Ted's first week.
100.
You'll be hoping, though, that you can have a second one very, very soon. Win this one straight into Champions Week.
140.
Taking on the path that was laid by John Henderson 12 months ago.
I've got a theory about Lee, by the way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think he might use as hair product concrete.
108.
I'm not saying that to make jokes or anything, because I've seen Lee away from darts. I've seen him at the airport, unexpectedly. And every time I run into him, never a hair out of place.
145. Ted, you require 81.
He is always immaculate. But is Ted immaculate here as he goes for the red button?
56. Lee, you require 36.
This has got to be pristine.
Game
That
shot
it
on the
is.
third leg, Lee Cox.
Could have easily been 3-0 down, but now we have a very different game on our hands.
Fourth leg, it's Lee to throw first. Game on.
Every now and again, you do get a bit lost, don't you, as to who's throwing next. And Lee had the courteous nature of asking Ted, who's going first again?
30.
I don't think I've ever asked an opponent of that question. I feel like I'd be stepping on their toes.
bit of a whirlwind sometimes. A 10-dart leg that from Lee Cox to get the throw back.
100.
I was so engrossed in how good that leg was, I completely lost the fact it was a 10-darter.
Best leg of the week so far. We have seen a couple of attempts at a 10-dart leg where players had a dart at the bullseye. But now we're seeing it landed. That can only be bettered by 1. And that is a leg that I've actually
96.
predicted goes this week. I still think we see a 9-darter at some point this week.
Yeah, but who's going to get that 9-darter?
Could be any of them.
100.
Well, Białecki's already got one here. We could get anything from Scott Taylor. He could easily plant one.
The way he's
43.
looking tonight as well, he's looking quite menacing, isn't he, Scott Taylor?
Great word. Great word. It's a big compliment as well when someone comes here and shows that
95.
desire, that drive and that real focus, but menacing is spot on, Matt. He's staring a hole through that board like he's General Zod from Krypton.
$134.
Have you ever looked at Lee Cox's stance?
30.
It's rather dainty.
Ted, you require 128.
Maybe we can have a look at that in the next leg. Depends whether he's going to be 2-2 or potentially 3-1 down. Just next door on the 54 means that he's got a small matter of 62 left.
76. Lee, you require 146.
Big ask for Lee, but it's a possibility. And now, it's become slightly easier. Much easier.
Oh, so close.
120.
My word,
Ted,
when that
you
left his
require
hand, he thought that
52.
was in. That was a fabulous try. Heart and mouth stuff for Everts, who's got double 8.
Game shot on a
And there's
fourth
another one
leg.
of those
Ted
trebles
Everett.
that you don't necessarily have to go for, but it's 3-1 to Super Ted after a huge scare.
Fifth leg, it's Ted to throw
Oh,
first.
look at Lee Cox.
Game on.
He is livid. I wouldn't want to be that dartboard next. Something's going to get a hammering.
60.
Here's something that's sort of creeping in, though, these focal darts, where instead of just throwing into the big single, people are starting to try and pick out the trebles.
I hate to bring it up, Ted,
85.
but the one person that shot reminds me of is Fallon Sherrick. Because when she's got 52, she goes treble 12. Maybe more than anybody. That stance of Lee Cox, you'll see it here, where that back foot curves around. It's almost like he's about to go into a triple toe loop on the ice.
140.
That's why I said it's very dainty. Do you know any dart players who are decent skaters? Probably Dawson Marshall, because Ted's really pally with the lad from Medicine Hat in Canada.
58.
They teach skating to babies over there, don't they? It's just something they do.
79.
I heard referee Owen Binks wasn't too bad at skating, wasn't he?
Well, he was skiing recently, wasn't he? Yeah, skiing like a rock.
93.
Only one of these players can go downhill over the next few minutes. And if Lee's not careful,
26.
he might be in real trouble now, because being one short of a finish presents a guaranteed 6 starts for Everts to get his first win of the group. His win ratio in Group A was very, very good. 67%.
55.
20 points from 30. That's really, really good. What is he going to need to make his first Saturday here in Group B? I think he's got to get to double figures.
125.
Just to be sure.
Ted, you require
That's 10 points.
135.
Not 8, not 6. Don't be hedging your bets. Get to 10 points over the next 2 nights.
Well, he's not going to get to 135 points on this occasion, so
111.
Lee Cox will get
Lee
an
require
opportunity
46.
to extend this fixture. Double 9 to save his skin. And that may
37.
be the last dart he throws. Ted Everts
Ted, you
a
require
chance
24.
to have the ultimate turnaround of his Group B campaign.
Double 6. It's double 3 again. But he's going for it after a bad dart at 6s.
18.
And that one just falls out of the
Lee
air.
require 9.
3 match darts missed. Cox has got a very awkward looking 9. However, he
Shot on
made
a
it look
fifth leg, Lee
fairly
Cox.
simple. And this game will have more than 5 legs.
6th leg, it's Lee to throw
For the first time tonight as well, we
Game on.
give it the build-up in terms of how close and competitive this group's going to be. And the first 4 games have been very one-sided.
108.
And we do know that Cox has got a blitz in him. Because when he started tonight, you mentioned it, Matt, 25 darts for the first 2 legs he won. If he does that again, he could steal this one away.
99.
We were holding on to our hats there, Lee.
100.
4 perfect darts. Everts might already be thinking about the possibility of leg number 7. And this is the first game tonight that's going to go at least 6 legs.
96.
3 4-1 scorelines and a 4-0. It's been a process of domination.
140.
And Lee is not giving up right about now.
Ted's mind will already wander at this point to the next leg. He knows he's got the advantage of throw. And he knows, so if he's going to win this leg, he's going to need
99.
to see Lee Cox
require
make many
81.
mistakes.
That's not a mistake. And neither is
Shot
that.
on a 6th leg.
That's a
Lee
12 darter
Cox.
from Cox, his second of the night. And he's had a 10 in there as well. He's had some really
7th
good
and
quality.
final leg. It's Ted to throw first.
Does he have one more in him
Game
to
on.
steal this game away? Now, earlier on today, Ted Everts' best pal on tour, Bradley Brooks, was involved in a couple of games like this. He lost them both. Oh,
108.
you don't get a great deal of emotion from Everts, but he really enjoyed that maximum. I don't think he's going to enjoy this one.
140.
But luckily for him, dart number 3 for Lee just collapses in the air.
That is the evolution of Lee Cox there and the developments within his game. A year ago, he just stood at the back of the stage, shaking his head. Can't believe someone's opened up with a maximum in this situation.
140.
Now, he's experienced enough to know that that happens when you're playing at this level.
Yes, it does.
85.
The experience of Everts and everything he's been through in his very young career. He's using it all now to try and get these 2 valuable points. One of the best players in the history of the development tour. Of that, there is no doubt.
96.
There is nothing he hasn't accomplished at that level. But now that he's too old for it, we now judge him by his senior standards.
140.
We
Ted,
go
you require 85.
to the end. 1 dart at the bull, maybe. But it's 5s.
75.
If Lee Cox takes this,
Lee, you require
Everts will need 5
136.
minutes on his own.
We got very close to the 146 earlier on. Would have been the same equation, 2 trebles for a shot of the double, but Ted Everts hasn't made it very easy here. He's been 3 from 15 on the
78.
doubles.
Ted, you require 10.
We saw John O'Shea spend an awful lot of time on double 5 earlier today. Match dart at double 2.
Game Game shot and the match.
I think there's a little bit of relief in that one for Ted Everts. Lee Cox did everything he could, but unfortunately, he just ran out of legs in the end. And the quality from Everts at the start of that final leg gave him the breathing space he needed. 86.79 will do, but it is a really big improvement from his first game. And when he comes back to play Scott Taylor in Game 7, I'm sure he will pose a bigger threat than maybe he thought he could earlier in the night. We'll take a short break. We'll have a bit of a debrief with Henry as well. But when Montgomery comes back to the hockey, he's got to take on Dave Evans. And that is a tall task against Stretch.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where we are midway through our evening session. And before the break, we saw Ted Everts get over the line by 4-3 against Lee Cox. Paul Nichols has been watching all the action down in the commentary box. He joins me here backstage at the live lounge. Let's just round up first and foremost, though, what we have seen so far this evening. These are the results from our 5 matches. And as you can see there, Scott Taylor 2 from 2. And, well, most of the games being won on throw quite academically.
Just brilliance from Taylor. A really good level of performance and consistency, but it's not often you see a match won when you've hit the same double 4 times. And it just goes to show the strength and the conviction that we've had from Taylor, not just tonight, but from the whole week. The fact that we've got someone of his quality not coming through a Group A campaign just goes to show how well Sebastian Białowski and Ted Everts played as well in the first 3 days. But I think Ross Montgomery may feel a little bit shocked by the quality he's seen from this level of play from these players. It's been exceptional so far.
Just talking about Scott in a bit more detail, what do you think he's done so right this evening?
I think he's stayed true to what kind of player he is. He doesn't overcomplicate things. He's not someone who surveys a great deal of averages. He just does a lot of the right things at the right times. He doesn't play the game in a fancy way. We know that he can put in a lot of maximums. We know he's got a high level of performance, but he gets the basics right. He doesn't go for trebles on 44 like we saw from David Evans. I know that that's seen as a bit fancy. He doesn't go for 52 on treble 12 double 8. We've seen that from Ted Everts. He just plays the game the way it should be played in a simple manner. But every now and again, he just lifts his performance and is able to do things like that.
In terms of Lee Cox, you were mentioning on comms that maybe he's a little bit of a forgotten man, but he's shown at points tonight. I know he lost that last one. He'd be really disappointed to lose that last one. But on the basis and the evidence of that first performance that he put in this evening, he was putting down a marker to say, hey, don't forget about me.
Yeah, I like that from Lee, because when you're playing some of the best darts of your career today, you've got to do bits like this. He was 1-0 up against Montgomery and planted that 1-2 on a double 14. And the start that he had in 25 darts for the first couple of legs, we all thought, okay, so Lee Cox is here to play. Yes, he won the first game and put in that performance. But even though he lost his second game, I'm of the opinion that maybe a year ago, he loses that game 4-1, 4-0. Now he's losing those games 4-3 because he's just digging a little deeper. And potentially, a year ago, he loses to Montgomery. So he's definitely trending in the right direction.
In terms of David Evans, a lot of the things that we labelled about Lee Cox, could we maybe say the same about him going into this group and the level of performance that we've seen from him tonight?
I think it's fairly consistent what you get from Stretch. Look at his averages. They're fairly similar. It was a really good start against Everts. As you can see here, he's got the 60 for the match and he gets it done without any fuss. But when he comes up against someone else who's of a slightly higher level, maybe he hasn't found that yet, but he still can.
Well, it's the final week of qualification here at the MODUS Super Series. And next week, well, things really do come to the boil. Apparently, he's meant to be quite good at darts.
Didn't win tonight, though, did he, in Berlin? Michael van Gerwen won. But he did have 2 darts to win, and he won twice here last year. Remarkable Super Series streak that he had, and it was ended by a certain Sebastian Białowski, wasn't it? And he's still here in week 12.
And he could still win the lot. Now, these are the players that we can 100% confirm are going to be here at Champions Week next week. Now, of course, this is that time of the year where players have gone on to win tour cards, and so they're automatically ineligible. Neil Duff's going to be playing at the World Seniors Championship next week. So these are the players that we can 100% confirm will be here. Andy Bolton won a week, Wayne Jones won a week, Tom Sykes was superb when he won a week, Chaz Barstow all the way back in November went on and won a week, and Cam Crabtree just before Christmas, as well as Reece Colley, who of course we saw win a week, well, a couple of days ago. But the 4 players there that we can definitely confirm are going to be in that Champions Week field. Well, Dan Webster's just dropped off tour. Ron Moulenkamp, we know what he can do. And Ryan Harrington is a player who really is, once again, really coming to the surface.
Yeah, I think Ryan will be very happy that he's coming back for next week. Gary Stone, we know that Gary's got a silly level in him. It'll be interesting to see what he can bring. But there are many people who could pitch for a potential title with their words over the next few days. It's what they do with their darts that we're going to judge them from.
Now, we've been here a lot of times over Champions Week. We've been lucky to cover a lot of them together. Is this the most open one we've seen yet?
I probably have to say yes. You've got no Luke Littler in there, and you've got no Raymond Smith. I mean, when Raymond came for Champions Week about a year ago, we all thought, this looks like it's his time. But when Luke Littler was taking the next 2 series, we thought, is anybody going to stop him? After that, you had to fancy Jim McEwen because of what he's done with us prior. But there's one name on that list that I look at it and I think, is it destiny that he's going to get a series title in this venue? Because he was dominant in Southampton. That's Chaz Barstow. I think he would love to be here on a Champions Night, to have all of his friends and family here and this bustling atmosphere with the ticker tape going around and the trophy essentially smiling at him. I think he'll really fancy it.
Monday morning, 9:30 a.m, Sporty Stuff TV, Super Series YouTube channel for the beginning to see who is going to lift the big jackpot here at the Live Lounge around about this time next week. And if you do want to be here for Champions Night, head over to dartshot.tv. Limited tickets, but still tickets available for that big night. Right, back to this evening's action then. And just before we get the action back underway, this is how the table occupies itself at the halfway stage. And as you can see, Scott Taylor in front, the only player to have won both of his matches so far this evening. Lee Cox, David Evans and Ted Everts all with a victory to their name. Ross Montgomery, bottom of the pile. We're going to see him in action up next. He takes on David Evans in our 6th match of the evening session. Paul Nicholson's going to make his way over to the commentary box to describe all the action in the company of Matthew Edgar.
Thank you, Henry. And that's our half-time analysis completed for Thursday's Group B action. We now go into the second half of play, where the league table will start to unfold throughout the next 5 fixtures. No one's ever really out of a Group B
First
campaign.
leg, it's Ross to throw first. Game on.
We have seen players lose all 4 of their matches on a Thursday, come back on the Friday and still qualify. We've seen players go through with 6 points. So nothing will really be fully decided today, but the players will know their places. Ross Montgomery has tasted defeat twice
99.
already tonight. He's only mustered 3 darts at a double throughout his opening 2 fixtures. He has hit 2.
74.
David Evans been the model of consistency. 4-0 victory over Ted Everts in his opening game before going down 4-1 in a bit of a local
43.
derby against Scott Taylor, who is the only man to be unbeaten in Group B here.
140.
Scott Taylor, top of the table on 4 points after 2 laps of fixtures. But this is better from Montgomery. Starting to find his scoring boots.
140. Ross, you require 164.
We did see him earlier on a shot like this, very similar. Got the 2 trebles and refused the dart at the bullseye. I think he would have done exactly the same here against David Evans, just looking to set up the shot.
100.
David Evans back on 219. Not much he can do to stop Ross Montgomery from getting his 3rd leg on the board
100.
in this Group B
Ross, you
campaign.
require 64.
Well, he's going to get darts at a double, something he hasn't done too often
Game
tonight.
shot
But
on
when
the
he
first
does
leg,
get
Ross
darts at a
Montgomery.
double, he takes them. 4 darts at a double.
Second leg,
3
it's
hits.
David to throw first. Game on.
I don't think we've ever had a 75% conversion rate going into fixture 3.
I can't think of one.
108.
We haven't struggled for them tonight. Been a fair few.
Been a fair few from David Evans. That's his 4th of the night so far.
Well, with darts the way
100.
his are constructed, you got to fancy them. Look at the taper towards the end. When he gets the perfect first dart, he can just aggressively go for his own flight.
55.
And when they taper towards the end like that, somewhat Paul Lim style, you can see there's a bit of tapering for Ross as well. They just seem to get closer together.
180.
Just like that.
Something different about Ross Montgomery in this game. I don't just mean
81.
because he's hitting. I mean his demeanour. It's a little bit less friendly.
Elaborate.
He just feels
60.
a little bit more focused, a bit more almost angry with how the night may have gone.
I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
Because when you've lost 2
134.
games, you can
Ross, you
have
require
disdain for the
161.
situation. And you can say to yourself in the mirror, well, I'm not going to take this. I'm going to walk out with 4 points tonight.
41.
I'm going to win my
David,
next
you
2
require
games
51.
against Everts and Evans. Easy for me to say. Thoughts up.
Game shot on a second leg.
There's a wonderful
David
14
Evans.
darter from stretch.
I mean, in terms of comparing the CVs of the players, there's
Third leg, it's Ross to
probably
throw
got the most
first.
titles of
Game on.
anyone in this group. Maybe challenged by Ted Everts in regards to what he achieved on the development tour.
Now, what do you reckon would be his
60.
favourite title?
Oh, got to be the Dutch Open.
Not the Finder Darts Masters from 2010?
A lot of people really like that event, didn't they? I know Glenn Durant speaks
140.
very, very highly of the Finder Masters.
He beat Robbie Green in the final of that tournament back in 2010 at the Hotel Eiderdown. Beat Tony O'Shea in the semis.
140.
And he beat a friend of mine in quarters. Someone who I'd love to see here. I'm being completely selfish. And it's someone that David Evans knows.
100.
Stuart Kellett. I haven't seen Kuster in ages. I'd love to see him here.
Didn't he play Q School a year ago as well?
Yeah, I think he did.
Didn't do too bad, if I
100.
remember rightly.
I'm sure there are plenty of dart players from our fans. They're probably screaming at their screens right now saying, I'd love to see such and such. And you're more
60.
than welcome to get in touch with us and let us know who you'd like to see here. We've had a lot of people saying they'd like to see Paul Lim here.
You've really got to stop tweeting in, Paul.
139.
I'll never forget the day I met Paul Lim for the first time. My word. It's like I was 10 years old again. What a day that was. I met him at the very same minute that I met Bob Eve. What a day.
96. Rossi requires 62.
One of my favourite numbers, 62. Double top for 2-1 for Monty.
Game shot on the third leg.
Probably doesn't
Ross
even like that
Montgomery.
nickname, but he loves that 15 darter.
He loves doubles.
Fourth leg. It's
He's only
David
missed a
to throw
dart tonight
first.
at the double across his 3
Game on.
games.
Yeah, this is rather useful from Montgomery.
93.
After averaging 83 in his first game, then 89 in his second, he has found a different level in this one.
43.
Worryingly for Evans and potentially for Ted Everts later, this is just that kind of average that will worry anybody on this stage,
100.
no matter what they're doing.
Well, I'll always be slightly concerned when they're playing a player with the CV of
140.
Ross Montgomery with all those titles. But then when they start to produce on the night as well, that's when it starts to
81.
set in with that little bit of sort of nervous excitement.
Just on the equipment that Montgomery is using here, we've talked about the tapered nature of those barrels.
134.
They've got a little bump at the bottom, which makes them rather bespoke. But where do you stand on the somewhat polarizing subject of spinning
99.
flights?
I don't like them, but I think they're going to come back into popularity the more people start to use these really rigid
100.
fixed flights,
David, you require
because
128.
you've got to counteract the thickness of the flight and the issues that that's going to pose.
David was hopeful there. The dart 14 of the leg was a treble. It wasn't.
88. Ross, you require
So
84.
we might have to survive one dart at the bull here, or possibly two at 12s. The bullseye for 3-1.
49. David,
Shake
you
of the head
require
tells you
40.
everything. He didn't like the shot. Evans likes that guide. Oh my, that's gone too flat. But he still
shot on the
finds it.
fourth leg,
That's
David
incredible,
Evans.
that dart from stretch. I really thought that when that second dart flattened out a bit, that it might be too flat
Fifth leg,
and
it's
stop
Ross
him
to
from
throw
finding that
first.
tops.
Game
He
on.
knew better.
That and the fact he made the tops a little bit smaller because he was that close to it. He was bending the wire inwards.
Yeah, Dave
60.
is well over 6 feet tall. Closer to 6.5 feet, in fact. He's a big lad. If you're in the supermarket and you need something from the top
134.
shelf, Dave Evans is your guy. Did you know that Ross Montgomery used to play American football?
No, you learn something new every day, don't you?
Yeah, he did.
34.
I don't know which position he played. In fact, I'm going to find out for tomorrow. I wonder if he was a quarterback or a cornerback or a linebacker. It's one of those words that sounds really good in Geordie.
140.
What sounds better in Scottish is 4-2 or 4-3 to the Scotsman.
121.
The last thing he wants to hear from us and our referee Jack is that he's lost for a third consecutive time. They're almost identical in averages in this game. It's a superb
100.
contest and a great advertisement for what Super Series darts is right now. How many times do we see it? Towards the end of week 12, we get such a quality
100.
of output from
David, you
these
require
players
127.
because they can smell the prize. Barbecue sauce.
80.
Obviously doesn't like that.
Ross, you require 86.
But then again, Montgomery might go for that same target himself. Maybe not now. I guarantee he's not going to go treble 8. Wrong treble twice.
It could be a really costly time because David Evans is sat ready to pounce.
46.
We'll be expecting to get
David,
two
you
darts up the
require
double here.
47.
David Evans to break the thrower, Ross Montgomery. He's going to be at tops. A target is hit already in this game, and that is wayward. That is wide. That is wild, and he's lost the opportunity now.
15.
Ross Montgomery
Ross, you require 40.
can step up and step in.
He steps up. And he steps
Game shot
in.
on a fifth leg, Ross Montgomery.
Sometimes you do need a little bit of fortune in these games. And Montgomery has just got it there.
Sixth leg, it's David to throw first. Game on.
Undoubtedly the most famous Montgomery sports person has been Colin Montgomery over the years, the former
97.
European Ryder Cup captain from 2010. A winning captain as well from Celtic Manor. And the multiple-time European #1 and senior major champion.
60.
Done an awful lot in the game of golf. I can't remember any other darting Montgomerys.
140.
He's the only one that springs to mind for me.
$66.
Any thoughts on next week's finals list with the alternates coming in because of the people that can't take part? Anybody that really stands out for you?
180.
Like that 180 from Evans?
It's interesting because I still think about Gary Stone as a possible contender, but he's still not won a week yet.
59.
Wouldn't it be so
David, you
ironic
require
if that is the
84.
week he wins a Champions Week?
It was a year ago that Scott Walters played in a Champions Week. And he was a runner-up, remember.
52.
This kind of thing comes up these days. When there are people who are ineligible to play in a Champions Week because of their newfound tour status.
100. David, you require 32.
Double 16 for 3-3.
Game shot on a sixth
Picture
leg,
perfect,
David
and we
Evans.
go the distance for the second consecutive game. And the
Seventh
first time
and
we
final
saw it, it was
leg. It's
Everett
Ross
who
to throw
won
first.
with the
Game
darts. Montgomery is desperate for that to be the case right here.
$100.
We get to that point for Ross Montgomery where just needs to ensure he gets that treble a throw.
59.
Certainly now that David Evans has opened trebleless.
$60.
It does get harder and harder the more that the results don't come your way. This is the third fixture for Ross Montgomery and he's yet to pick up a victory. But here comes that pressure from
100.
David Evans. We're absolutely level at the moment.
I'd much rather have 341 after 6 than 342. And against the darts for Evans as well, because everybody knows now, if you've been watching top level darts for a period of time. 342 cannot be done in 6 darts. But 341 can most definitely be done in 9.
140.
That's why the switch to the 17s is being used a lot more now rather than the 19s with that last start.
Exceptional 140 from Ross. And if he wins this game because he left 341 instead of 342 like Dave did, it just goes to show the fine margins we're talking about here.
100. Ross, you require 101.
This is for 341 in 9 darts. That's a good one. That's a brilliant 60.
Game shot.
And that is 341 in 9 darts. Right on the script, and Montgomery is off and running. He has got a problem though, even with winning 2 points there and denying David Evans the chance to get to 4. His leg difference is still in the minus column by some distance. He's still got work to do, but his job there was to get on the points tally, and he has done an exceptional job there by getting that 101 check out at the end for the 94.08 average. And his doubles, like Matthew Edgar said, throughout the night, they have been right on cue. When we come back, Scott Taylor is up against Ted Everts. Is there anybody who can stop Scott Taylor tonight? Let's find out if Super Ted can do it.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series. Before the break, Ross Montgomery got the better of David Evans by 4 legs to 3. What a way to win it as well. 101 to win the match. Scintillating affair. David Evans losing with an average in excess of 98 in that one. Right, game 7 of our night sees Scott Taylor in action, the man with a 100% record so far. He takes on Ted Everts, who got over the line against Lee Cox in the last leg decider in his previous match. Let's see for whom 7 is going to be heaven for. Matt and Paul.
Thank you, Henry. Hasn't really been one of those nights that David Evans was wishing for. He's been playing really well tonight, but he's only got 2 points.
First leg, it's Scott to throw first. Game on.
He's averaging 94.13 for the night, is Dave, and he's got 2 points to show for it. Welcome to Group B in Week 12.
60.
But as far as Scott Taylor's concerned, he's got an unblemished record so far by playing some sterling stuff. Not just in the scoring department, but the doubles have been really impressive.
97.
8 hits from 11 attempts. And if he maintains this, Everts is going to have to find an even better level than what we saw from him in Game 5 when he beat Lee
60.
Cox 4-3.
But he does have that level in him. This is a 4th time these two have met so far this week. They've both been here since Monday, taking part in Group A action, of which Ted Everts
46.
won on Monday, head-to-head, 4-3. He then won on Tuesday, 4-2, before Scott Taylor
22.
got a bit of revenge on Wednesday with a 4-2 victory.
Could be the game, or the fixture, I should say it,
100.
that we see 7 times this week. You can play each other 7 times in a week.
59.
If you're in Group A together, if you're in another group together, and if you're in the same group on Saturday night and in the final.
98.
Time will tell. But no combination at the end of Week 12 would surprise me.
41. Ted, you
This
require
has been a
160.
bad leg for Scott, his worst of the night. And the puff of the cheeks from the man from Bolton tells you everything you need to know. Double top for Super Ted.
140.
We haven't seen a great deal of massive outs today compared to the first 3 days, have we? Maybe the 144
43.
from
Ted,
Neil
you
Mania
require
in
20.
Group C was the highlight of the day in that department. Double 5 or the layup. I can
12.
fully get behind that.
Especially we've seen double 5 unravel so many times, not just in this group, but in our Group C
140.
campaign this afternoon.
Ted, you require 8.
But it's double 4 for Ted Everts to confirm this breaker throw.
Game shot on the first leg. Ted Everts.
I didn't think that Ted Everts was going to break the throw in 20 darts, though. I've got to be honest.
It was one of them where he
Second
got
leg,
there
it's
in the
Ted to
end,
throw
wasn't
first.
it? He should have,
Game on.
or could have had it wrapped up so much sooner.
Just been looking through Scott Taylor's career, and I've come up with something that he's got in
57.
common with Neil Mania, the hitter of that 144 from this afternoon. They were in the England team together a couple of years ago
80.
when they played in the British Internationals. Taylor, just like Mania, won both of his games. When he played against Wales, he beat Mark Challenger by 4 legs to 3.
59.
When he played against Scotland, a team that did not involve Ross Montgomery,
135.
Scott Taylor beat Ewan Callender, a good friend of mine from up north. But it just so happens that when Dave Ladley was playing for England in that team, he beat Bruce Montgomery. So there is another darting Montgomery after all.
97. $100.
Thrown with a bit of venom. That from Scott Taylor. This is the growth that we talk about. He has that frustrating opening leg, and instead of sort of shaking his
46.
head and moaning about his luck, he digs deeper.
And look at his body when he throws that dart. Oh my!
60.
Change that flight. You've only just gone and whacked it twice. That was not a bounce out either time. He hit his own flight twice. I'll tell you what, if he doesn't change that flight, it's going to look as bad as Alex Spellman's flights from 2 weeks ago. Where me and
90.
Chris Mason were getting severe
Scott, you
anxiety
require
about the fact
126.
that they looked almost chewed.
$78. Ted, you require 152.
Oh, this will be something. He's looking north. Every now and again, you just got to stop and wait for the play because you never know.
58.
Someone might
Scott,
on that
you
shot
require
just want to go
48.
two treble 19s.
Game shot on his second leg, Scott Taylor.
You don't see finishes better than that when it comes to that shot there. But I'm with you,
Third leg, it's Scott
Matthew
to throw
Edgar. I think
first. Game on.
there's some attitude in the face of Scott Taylor tonight, and I'm digging it.
100.
You want to change your life, you want to get life-changing money, you got to change what you do. And there are so many players that I know of that are, I suppose, classified as insane. Because they think that they're going to change their lives by doing
99.
the same thing over and over and over again. The classification of insanity is doing things over and
93.
over and over again and expecting different results. In order to get more from your game, you have to evolve.
And
140.
we are talking life-changing money over the next sort of 9 days or so. Over £25,000 in payments for a couple of weeks' work
123.
is not bad start to 2024.
There aren't many people in this sport who can get £25,000
75.
for 2 weeks' work. But if you can't, it could
134.
be a real platform to something rather special. Last year, Luke Littler won over £50,000 in this venue. Look what he's doing now.
129.
I know he's an
Scott, you
exceptionally
require 51.
talented young lad, and he's maybe generational,
Game shot on the third
and he's
leg.
from the same
Scott
neck of the
Taylor.
woods as that lad right there who grasps the dart out of tops. But if you don't see that young man
Fourth
as
leg, it's set to throw
inspirational,
first. Game on.
something wrong with you.
$100.
Thinking about that for a second, is there anybody that you saw early in your career, Matt, that gave you that feeling of
57.
inspiration? They did something and you said, I want a piece of that.
I think for my sort of generation, the real leader and the flagship of
57.
that was Stephen Bunting. He was sort of the player that was bridging the gap before anyone bridged the gap between youth darts and
180.
sort of adult darts.
This whole concept, and I hate to dispel the myth, by the way, everybody, but the thought of a 16-year-old kid being a world beater,
81.
it's not a new concept. We spoke about Bradley Brooks earlier. He got on the tour when he was 16. Stephen Bunting was a world-class
120.
player at the age of 16 in 1999. It's happened before. Michael van Gerwen was 16 when he was starting to win BDO titles. It happens roughly once every 10 years. And don't get me started on Bo Greaves.
62. Scott, you require 144.
She's so good, she can get 3 180s in a leg.
$116.
He's doing an awful lot right, and somewhat unconventionally here. Taylor really has got the bit between his teeth. He looks like someone has nicked his steak off his plate, and he's using the dartboard for
97.
vengeance.
Scott, you require 28.
There you go,
Shot on the fourth
3-1.
leg,
And the
Scott Taylor.
turnaround in this game has been incredible. I'm almost surprised that the average is not
Fifth
more than
leg, it's
89,
Scott to throw first.
because it looks better than that.
Game on.
Especially that last leg being a 13 darter as well for Scott Taylor. It just goes to show how off the pace he was in that first leg.
140.
Do you know what? I hate to say something really personal here. Just before Christmas, I had a really nice meal with a few of my old pals from Northumberland County. Joy Wanless, the big lass.
44.
Brother Steve Wanless, one of the Northumberland greats. And we were talking about our old county captain, Alan Whittle. from the west of Newcastle. And Scott Taylor is
79.
playing like Alan Whittle tonight because he was a man of few words. But as our captain, he would just make a noise when you needed to be inspired. And he'd just go, yup, like that. And you heard it from the back of the room. That's how Scott Taylor's playing tonight.
100.
He's playing with that sound effect in mind. He's playing with more vigour
100.
than anybody I've seen this week.
And I think he's lost about 5 darts on the floor as well in this fixture, and he's still got a very sizable lead in the legs and the scoreboard.
99.
He's starting to remind me of another old county pal of mine, Mac Murphy from Newcastle. He once averaged 111 in a county game against Derbyshire with 3 bounce-outs.
134.
I'll never forget that as long as I live. And Scott Taylor, who has had so many darts on the floor in this game, has refused to back down anyway. It's 48 for a 3rd consecutive win.
98. Scott, you require 48.
Double top.
38.
I'm surprised he missed tops,
Ted, you
considering
require
what he did in his previous
160.
match.
Ted would be loving to get a dart of tops, but he needed the 2 treble 20s in order to do so. And he can only cross his fingers, cross his toes, and hope that
54.
this does
Scott,
not
you
go.
require 10.
Scott
Game
Taylor
shot
is
and
in
the
the
match.
wind.
Scott Taylor.
Everybody else has got 2 points, but now ST has got 6. He is getting very, very close to qualification already. And that 89.96 average is a reduction in output from him, but the doubles again are incredible. So impressive in that department tonight. 12 hits, and he's only had, what is it, 6 on top of what he's done? 17 darts at double tonight. I hate to calculate it right there, but it has been that good. It needed to be told. 4-1 again for the man from Bolton, and he's atop the table on 6 points. When we come back, it will be Evans up against Cox. I wonder what's going to happen in Game 8. Stay with us to find out.
Wow, welcome back to the Live Lounge in Portsmouth, otherwise known as Scott Taylor's Manor. 3 wins from 3 from him this evening, and all 3 going by way of a 4-1 scoreline. Ted Everett, his latest victim before the break. Well, we're at that weird point of the evening where one player's about to finish their programme and one player's only halfway through it. David Evans will walk free after this match. It'll be the end of his night's work up against Lee Cox, who is only halfway through his evening's quota. Here's Paul and Matt.
Thanks, Henry, and I hate to do my best Lloyd Grossman impression.
First leg, it's David to throw first. Game on.
I'm not going to talk about Italian sauces either, but he said that this is somebody else's place. Well, who would live in a house like this? Well, apparently Scott Taylor does, because it's his manor.
123.
So there you go. We're all at Scott's house, and he's got 1 match left, and it is against Lee Cox in game number 10. And considering
45.
how well he's played tonight, with 71% on doubles after 3 matches, we have to say good luck, Lee, but he's still got David Evans to take care of before that.
134.
This has been a decent start from Dave as well. Are you privy, Matthew Edgar, to the duck story? What's that all about?
Ah, yes. So
140.
I might be responsible for that.
You being responsible for something? I've never heard such a thing in my life.
60.
Yeah, I may have called David Evans a sitting duck, for which he didn't enjoy it too much. And it became a bit of a
97.
joke to the point he then started bringing in rubber ducks. Which, for some reason, are still dotted around the venue in various places. I keep
96.
seeing rubber ducks everywhere.
So that explains why I've seen them too. Why was he a sitting duck?
140. David, you require 88.
I think he was bottom of the table, if I remember correctly. And was talking about
52.
how he was going to deal
He
with the
requires
next
79.
day. And he was sort of struggling a bit with his shoulder, and this explained that he
59.
could be
David,
a
you
sitting
require
duck on the next
36.
day, as he had nothing to play for and was visibly struggling.
A dart player taking something personally?
Game shot on the first leg. David Evans.
He's not a duck right now. Doesn't have to duck. He's in charge. He's got the
Second
rifle.
leg, it's Lee to throw
Was a
first.
quacking
Game
first
on.
leg there for David Evans.
$83.
He's finished being sick yet.
It's one of the best parts of our job.
44.
Your dad joke. Henry's right about one thing.
60.
Not the only thing he's right about, but Lee Cox is at the halfway point, whereas Dave Evans will finish his quarter right here. If he walks away with 4 points this evening, considering how he's played,
140.
what does he think of it? Because if you break his games down, 92 plus for his first performance,
100.
that was a win. Since then, he's lost twice with 91.5 and 98.5.
He'll take stock in that. David Evans, someone I've spoke to on many
57.
occasions, will take the positives out of that. He'll know he's playing well. He'll know you're not going to lose many games throwing a 98 average. It was just the wrong place at the wrong time, and put that
40.
in most of your matches, you expect to win 99 out of 100.
It reminds me of some of those games we had from home when Dave was the chief.
140.
I remember a game between Boris Koltsov and Mike Warburton with a collective average of 226. Warburton averaged 110 and lost.
85. David, you require
Koltsov won the
116.
116. What a game it was. I'll never forget it as long as I live. Time for a 60 and a tops. Right on time.
80.
Misses the mark.
require
And Lee Cox with 133. This is hard.
Well, I know you like patterns, Paul. Have you noticed that other than the Scott Taylor-Ross
97.
Montgomery game, the player
David,
playing
you require
first
40.
has been winning quite comfortably.
Game
And
shot
if
on the
that's to
second
continue,
leg, David
David Evans would win this fixture.
It's the way the game should go, but
Third
should is a
leg,
very
it's David
strong
to
word
throw
in this
first.
game.
Game on.
Conversation that a few of us had with John Part last year. We were talking about the difference between should and could.
57.
People saying they should have won a match. They should have hit that double. No, John's absolutely right. What he said was, there's no should in darts.
80.
You could win the match. You could hit that double. Very philosophical from Darth Mabel. But David Evans could win this match.
108.
But based on what we know about throwing first in the odd-numbered legs, people of this standard should win more than they lose.
140.
I stand by that statement. And the way that Evans is pulverising that triple 20 with back-to-back maxes, I think from this position, he definitely could win this game. Hang on a minute.
180.
This is rather impressive from both players in leg
84.
3. Double 6.
72.
That could be
Lee
costly.
require 101.
When he played against Montgomery, it was 101 checkout that got Ross leg 7. It's not going to get Lee Cox leg number 3.
It was that way as well, weren't it? 1 treble 20 tops.
13. David, you require 12.
And next door to double 13 is double 6.
Game shot
And
on
a
the
3-0
third
lead with that
leg,
13
David
darter.
Evans.
It's another high 90s average for David.
Fourth leg, it's Lee to
See a
throw
little
first.
juggling act there as well
Game
from
on.
Lee Cox with the darts. We've seen that before, haven't we? And that was on the World Championship stage.
Yeah, don't try that at
40.
home. That can get really painful if you grab the dart at the wrong point. These are trained professionals and they know what they're doing, so please do not try that at home.
96.
You ever tried that, Matt?
No, I don't think I want to either, to be honest.
I think there's only downsides attached to it.
140.
Try and grab it. And next thing you know, pierce a part of your hand and that throwing hand becomes pretty fragile. I've always been someone who likes
93.
to twist them in my non-throwing hand and making sure that they don't touch each other. Because I don't want to be referred to as one of those dart players that clicks his darts.
60.
And that's something you've got to be careful of in this arena because it's so quiet. You've got to be respectful to your opponents and make sure you don't make any
97.
noise behind them. But from seeing the practice facilities earlier today, all the guys are getting on famously, even though they are competitors against each other.
83.
There's only 5 spots up for grabs out of these 2 groups, in Groups C and B. Group C will be back from 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. This group will be back from 9:45,
97.
which is now later today, because we have just crept into Friday morning.
Textbook darts here with a
40.
throw for David Evans.
David, you
Just
require
ensure that 1 treble a throw
118.
will give you that 1 treble possibility on the outshot.
Well, the 48 bull shot is there, but with Lee Cox on 138, I don't blame him for going 60 there.
94. Lee
Gauntlet
require
is laid down.
138.
Stay there. He did the right thing, and he's done another juggling act. But now he may be tossed aside.
114.
Evans for the
David, you
perfect
require
ending
24.
to what's been a very difficult night. Double 6 again.
Game shot.
And that is a 4-0 win
Evans.
for the man known as the Duck Man. And he's got 4 points going into Friday night And with that 4-0 victory, his second of the evening, because he beat Ted Everts a little bit earlier, he's going to finish on +4 in leg difference alongside the 4 points that he's amassed. 93.94 is even 16 darters, and I am going to lambast him tomorrow not, because tonight he's played exceptionally well, and he's got a great chance of qualifying for Saturday once again. Lee Cox has got one more game to come against Scott Taylor, but that's after Ted Everts plays against Ross Montgomery in Game 9.
Welcome back to the Modus Super Series, where before the break we saw David Evans end his night on a high, beating Lee Cox 4-0, averaging 16 darts a leg in that particular duel. Evans will be a happy camper going into tomorrow night's action. Right, let's get into our penultimate match of the night, a final appearance of the evening for both Ted Everts and Ross Montgomery. Fair to say, as far as the pair is concerned, it's not quite been the night that either were expecting a win apiece for this duo. Right, in comms, Matt, Paul.
We're still here, and we are expectant in our last two matches
First
of the
leg,
evening
Ted
as we
to
go
throw
into
first.
the early hours
Game
of
on.
Friday. This is a new experience for both of these players. Neither have played in a Group B before, so playing in the early hours is something I'm
100.
sure they're not particularly used to anymore. What are your thoughts on that, Matt? Because when you're 61 years of age playing darts after 10 past midnight,
100.
you might say to yourself, well, this is a bit strange.
We've talked about the stamina, though, of Ross Montgomery, those titles that he has won, in the size of the field that he would have done that in. He would have to have done something like this to have picked up one of the 2 Dutch Open titles that he has.
That 180 from Everts was so effortless.
84.
It was like watching water go over a waterfall. It was so easy. And it makes you wonder, Why doesn't he do that every time? He's got so much talent.
98.
But if darts was easy, everybody would do it, right? It's a hard game, but every now and again, these players will make it look easy. But it is
60.
not.
Ted, you require 123.
104 left with 2. And he's just going to lay up lovely 4 double 16.
91.
I wonder what it says on Ted's birth certificate. Because Ted is synonymously short for Edward, isn't it?
121. Ted, you require 32.
I think he might be Edward, you know.
Game
How
shot on the
good was that
first leg,
13
Ted
darter?
Everett.
He's probably thinking, I'm glad it's Friday, because Thursday has been a bit rough.
Second leg, it's Ross to throw first. Game on.
Ross Montgomery, who's got 1 win, just like Ted this evening,
140.
he's going to have to do something that hasn't been done since Ross played against Taylor. He needs to find a win against the throw.
$27.
I like to see the evolution of the over 50s players as well, doing what they need to do to be competitive, whether it's equipment
140.
change, fitness change. You see quite a few players who are getting a little bit more into their seasoned region,
134.
using something akin to these throwing sleeves just to feel more comfortable whilst in position and throwing. You see a lot of the Asian players who are over 50 using these underlayers, and take it from me,
41.
they work. Are you someone who has used those yet?
Not as of yet.
You might need them in Scotland next week, by the way.
Cold, is it up
85.
that?
A little bit
sort of-
chilly, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, actually, I did have about 17 layers on at the UK Open once when the Beast of the East rolled in.
100.
Tell me about it. I played Richard North. It was -1 in the playing facility. I looked to my left. There were a bunch of dart players in jackets. I looked to my right, and there was Mickey Mansell in a beanie. And Mark Walsh
58.
playing in a hoodie.
Ross, you require 80.
That was not a pleasant experience, I might add. Just getting there was a bit of a task.
Game
Ross
shot
gets
the
there on
second leg,
tops.
Ross Montgomery.
Memories of the end of his previous game when he beat David Evans by 4 legs to 3 with that 101 checkout.
Third leg, it's Ted to throw first.
A lovely response from
Game
Ross
on.
in 15 darts there.
$93.
What do you think Ross feels about his career? He should be very proud of every title he's got. He was very much a hardened
60.
BDO player, wasn't he?
I think you said it perfectly there when you said he should be very proud of it. We know dart players. I don't think he will feel like he's got his defining
58.
moment. And I think some of that comes down to that record we discussed earlier where he doesn't really have that many wins on that Lakeside stage.
Do you know what? You make a really interesting remark
45.
there. Because I think every dart player, when they start out, they want that marquee win. Wherever they walk, wherever they play, strangers will say, oh, there's such and such because they did this.
97.
I've used the example of Andy Bolton many, many times. Now, you are going to see Andy Bolton next week in Champions Week. But I've talked about his proclivity of winning big independent events.
57.
But he hasn't won anything of note. Now, he's won on the Challenge Tour. Fair enough. But does Andy Bolton have that marquee win that will follow him forever? I don't think he does. Now, Ross Montgomery is another
140.
excellent example, but a different one. He's got way more titles than someone like Andy.
100.
But knowing the kind of player that he
Said you
is,
require
I think you're right.
113.
I don't think he's satisfied with his career. I don't think he's got the win that puts him in the bracket that he wanted to be in. Whereas Everts has got
93.
World Youth Champion.
Yeah, exactly that, and maybe that's why we're now seeing Ross Montgomery switch his attention to that seniors tour, because
99.
maybe he sees that as an
Said you
opportunity to
require
be where
20.
you can pick up one of those titles.
And what about World Senior Champion 2025?
Game shot on the third leg. Ted Everett.
2-1 to Everts. Well, Montgomery's not going to be playing next week at the seniors. Hasn't qualified for the Circus
Fourth
Tavern.
leg. It's Ross to throw first. Game on.
But he might just get there next year to be either the second or third Scottish player to put their name on the trophy.
81.
Do you think Robert Thornton's got a chance of defending it again?
He's always got a chance, hasn't he, Robert Thornton, regardless of the event. But he's going to have his work cut out, you'd say, this year.
96.
Robert Thornton. It's got to be the most competitive lineup of any seniors event so far.
Unquestionably.
108.
Wonderful darts from Montgomery. Whenever I say it, that name, I can't help but think of somebody else from Scotland. In the great world of golf, when Colin was playing,
58.
particularly at things like the World Match Play at Wentworth and the Open Championship, when the great Alex Hay was commentating on golf
60.
on terrestrial television with the likes of Peter Allis and Ken Brown and people like that. He said the name Montgomery better than anybody ever has.
17.
Looks like this one might be going 2-2. We don't mind a Desmond game here in Portsmouth.
100.
Very tidy indeed from Monty, who leaves himself on 80 again. A checkout that he got in leg 2. Isn't it funny how wherever you go around the country, they say the same word differently?
140.
Former
Russia
PDC
require
tournament
80.
director Tommy Cox is from Tynemouth. But here we're in Portsmouth.
60.
And yet we're such a small country. And it's the accents as well, isn't it? I'll have to go 15 minutes up the road and you can't understand what someone's saying.
Honestly, if you walk past North Shields and you say someone's from Tynemouth, they'll say, you what?
64. Russia require 20.
And it's definitely not Portsmouth. Is it 2-2? Of course it is. Oh, that was a nice assist, wasn't
Ross
it?
Montgomery.
That's like a deflected pass in the NFL. Still pass completed. And it's
Fifth
2-2
leg,
in this
it's set to
game,
throw
our penultimate
first.
game
Game
of the
on.
session. You got a favourite for the Super Bowl come Sunday? Do you think it's going to be the Chiefs? Or is it going to be the 49ers?
140.
I have absolutely no idea about American football anymore. Completely out of touch.
It's going to be Brock Purdy, the
85.
quarterback for the 49ers. And the great Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs. Other big players might be Christian McCaffrey, Chase Young for the 49ers, one of their best
57.
defensive players. Or is it going to be Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, one of the most famous men on the planet right now?
100.
Well, Ted, if you can get yourself another 2 points here, you're going to do yourself an awful lot of favours. You walk away from the first session of Group B with 2 points, you always feel like you should have got more.
61.
But 4 points, whether you played well or not, because ask Dave Evans this, 4 points, you're very much in control of what you do next.
140.
With 2, you're a little bit wanting.
$57.
I smell an opportunity for the boss. I think Ted Everett's performance review is due.
26.
Hang about. I think Ted Everett's might have got away with one there.
Even just straight darts would have put Ted Everett's in big trouble. But I agree with you. And he's making the most of it here.
140.
Ted Everett sets himself
Rossi
up on a
require
2-darter.
150.
This should have been much easier task for Ross Montgomery. Maybe he just likes to do things the hard way.
Oh,
fifth
it's a
leg,
haymaker
Ross
from
Montgomery.
Montgomery. What a shot. And what a turnaround after a terrible previous visit
Sixth leg, it's
of
Ross to throw first.
26.
Game on.
And Everts can't breathe. I don't blame him. That really was hurtful from Ross.
See him just nodding along at the back of the stage as the first dart goes in for Ross Montgomery.
140.
Ted Everts will be feeling like the job is up in this one, and if it is, he will be sitting at the bottom of the table on 2 points overnight.
I swear to you, because I know exactly how Ted feels in that
46.
spot, and I'm sure you do, Matt. He's feeling like a turkey, Super Ted. Because when that treble 18 went in on that 150 checkout, Ted was saying, get stuffed.
140.
Thought you were going to say, stick a fork in him because he's done.
He's not done yet. Ted knows how to cook a steak because he's a qualified chef. And you know that when you finish cooking something, you've got to let it rest for as long as you cook it.
100.
But there's no rest here for Everts. He's got to sizzle from here, otherwise he's going to be severely undercooked for the night.
45.
It's got to be faultless from here, from Ted. And he needs
99.
a lot of mistakes from Ross. And if he walks away with 4 points from this session, I'm going to laud him all the way through to 9:45
100.
on Friday night because he was swept aside by Scott Taylor and by Lee Cox in what was an exceptional performance from Lee. But since then, he has ground out positions
60.
that some dart players
Rossi
just couldn't
requires 76.
even think of. 88. He's got a perfect guide,
No score.
but a shot that's bust. And that might just be the invitation that Everts needs.
He may be feeling his luck's about to change. Instead of coming back with 3 darts in his hand for double 8,
120.
he'll be coming back for 76, just like Ted
Rossi
Everts, who
requires 76.
his luck was changing one way, it's gone back the other.
It's double 8 again. It's not deja vu,
68.
and it's not a match-winning shot. That's now
requires
4 darts for the
76.
match, missed by the boss. Can Everts find 76? It's the 3rd time we've seen it in this same leg. And we're not going to get a shot at tops on all 3 shots. It's going to be a last
got
leg
the sixth
decider.
leg,
What a
Ted
weird
Everett.
leg that was. 18 darter from Super Ted. And I think Ross Montgomery
Seventh
feels
and final leg.
that that's one of the
It's Ted to
weirdest
throw
legs
first.
he has seen
Game
in the
on.
last few years.
Well, another thing we can add to the weirdness of that leg was both players hit accidental double 16s. Montgomery to
134.
bust his score, move back to the 76. Ted's was actually set up the shot that won him the leg.
Yeah, great point, Matt. It has been a very odd night.
100.
What about Luke Humphries earlier on in Berlin, winning against Peter Wright? Last leg decider, and Humphries takes out an 11 darter with 2 double 8s. And the 2 double 16s that told the story of that 6th leg right there. But we can't ignore the fact that Ross has had 4 darts for the match.
He's had 2 visits there
100.
from 76 down to get the job done. And Ted Everts has said, thank you very much for the opportunity. You don't need to ask me twice, pal.
57.
I might as well leave 170. We've only had 3 this week.
$41.
I can't remember a week where we had 4.
170.
Might as well be this week, considering the quality. We'll just have to wait.
$90.
Tremendous third dart. Makes the next shot just a little bit easier, no matter what Montgomery does from this position. And this game, in the last 5 or 6 minutes, tells you why darts can be so tragic.
You require 80.
You're on the cusp of 4 points. You miss your shot. You give your opponent a shot, and he could walk away with 4 points to your 2. Everts gets the 4 points.
Ted Everts.
And the closest match that we've had all night long goes to Super Ted and Montgomery. When he graces the Oki again on Friday night, he will have a chance at revenge against one of Warwickshire's finest. But Everts is already thinking, how did I win that game? Well, you've got about 20 hours to let it soak in, Ted. We'll see you at around about 10:15 come Friday night. We've got one more match to come. Lee Cox, who's had a somewhat up and down night, he's going to take on Scott Taylor, who's looking for 8 points from 8.
Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where before the break, Ted Everett's got the better of Ross Montgomery in a last leg decider by 4-3. Right, our final game of the evening sees Scott Taylor presented with the opportunity to go through the card. He takes on Lee Cox, who himself has had an impressive evening in terms of performance. He's kicked off a 4-1 win against Ross Montgomery, lost out to Ted Everett 4-3, but then lost to David Evans by 4 legs. Now, watching this last game of the night, Matt and Paul.
We're watching,
First
we're listening,
leg, it's Lee to throw
and
first.
we are anticipating as
Game
well,
on.
as Lee Cox looks to do just what Ted Everett has done against Ross Montgomery. To take the final 2 points. If he does, he accomplishes 2
29.
things. He finishes with 50% of the points on offer to him tonight, and he could be the first person to beat Scott Taylor in
60.
this session. And judging by what Scott has done here tonight, that would be some feat.
Yeah, Scott Taylor's been very, very
100.
impressive. But he's been impressive all week. This is just a continuation of his form rather than something that he's actually stepped up to tonight.
100.
We are talking about a player who has won a weekly title here. One of 2 people who have done that here this week, the other one being Białecki, who was already in
85.
Saturday night. But when he did so, he averaged 109.31 in his Saturday final.
60.
There aren't many players who have done that. I just wonder if anybody's ever going to
100.
break the Saturday final record, which, of course, belongs to Luke Littler, in excess of 117, by the way.
140.
Luke Littler does not have every record here in Portsmouth.
100. Scott,
He
you
doesn't have the
require
highest average in a game.
141.
He doesn't have the longest streak of wins. Scott Taylor has got a 141 though for a 15 darter. And that is the second biggest finish of the night behind the 150 that we saw from Montgomery in the previous match.
First. Game on.
And just behind the 144 we got from Neil Mania in Group C this afternoon. Scott Taylor looks relentless.
100.
He has picked up weekly titles before, but he's been knocking on the door of picking up so many more.
60.
He did have a semi-final against Luke Littler where he lost that 4-1. He's also reached 2 further finals. Lost 4-2
30.
to Berry Van Peer and 4-3 to Matty Dennant. 2 people he won't have to come across in 2024 here at the Super Series.
140. $96.
Can you think of anybody who throws the darts harder than Scott Taylor? There aren't many.
55.
Callan Rids. He looks like he's throwing Death Stars at times, doesn't he?
105.
Don't give Callan Rids Death Stars. Especially the town he lives in. It's a bit rough.
78.
I should know, I used to
Scott,
live
you
there.
require 170.
Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute.
145.
I'm shocked he didn't hit it. That would have been some conversion off the back of a 141 checkout.
And he didn't need to go for it. He's just in that flow. He's just got that confidence going at the
100.
moment where he probably just
Scott, you
believes
require
everything's going to go.
25.
Ouch.
9.
That was a bit messy.
Lee, you
Even
require
the single
68.
one was a good inch from his intended portion of the single. And that is
Done a
exactly what
second
Lee
leg,
Cox
Lee
wanted.
Cox.
Get a chance, take a chance, 1-1. Simple as that.
Third leg, it's Lee to throw first. Game on.
Every time I look at Scott Taylor over the course of tonight, he's got that air of
140.
a baddie. You watch an old episode of Miami Vice or something like that. He's got that snarl in his demeanour. One of, do you know what? This is mine, it isn't yours.
It's ironic, actually, because earlier in the week he had a shirt on that
81.
I said reminded me very much of Harley Quinn.
The girl from Suicide Squad.
83.
I think she might be from that. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
really.
played by a certain Margot Robbie.
$55.
If there was one movie I didn't think you were going to quote tonight, it was going to be that.
$134.
If Scott Taylor was a superhero, I'm just trying to figure out which one he would be.
140.
I know
Scott,
what
you
Crafty
require
Coxie would be.
104.
However,
Game shot on
that's a
the third
superhero
leg.
shot from Scott Taylor. 141, 104. And he's
Fourth
picking off
leg,
these
it's Scott to
finishes
throw
to get
first.
breaks of throw.
Game on.
Don't forget, wired the 170 as well for leg number 2. Throwing quicker.
100.
This guy's really got levels. He's averaging 99. He's not happy. Welcome to Scott Taylor's world.
100.
We're just living in it. He wins this game, and one more tomorrow. That will get him through to another Saturday night.
57.
When you consider the fact that when he came into week 12,
99.
he'd already qualified for 5 Saturdays from 5 qualifying campaigns. He is very close already to 6 from 6.
140.
There can't be many players out there who have come here 6 times and qualified for Saturdays 6 times. I know his conversion rate to weekly titles is not brilliant.
92.
Only 1 from 5. But they don't hand out weekly titles on London Road in Portsmouth for free. But his conversion rate of
96.
getting to Saturday is exceptional. It can't get any better.
$174.
Well, there you
Scott,
go.
you require 108.
It doesn't get any better than that. And Scott Taylor cannot resuscitate the effort with the treble 19.
38.
Is it
Lee, you
about to
require
be a
36.
4th consecutive break of throw? It
27.
might not be.
Scott, you require 70.
The old 14s routine.
50. Lee, you require 9.
He's trying to find that double top when the dart is already in the board. It's already gone.
Game
But the
shot
break
on
of throw is
fourth
found on
leg,
double
Lee
4
Cox.
again for Coxie.
Fifth leg, it's Lee to throw first. Game on.
Spoke a lot about the evolution of
85.
Scott Taylor and how he's digging in more. Seeing that here from Lee Cox as well. Someone who did take very, very hard last time he was
180.
unable to get through to a Saturday night. And he's a couple of legs away from being in quite a decent position going in
45.
overnight.
As much as it's a good thing that Lee has broken Scott Taylor twice, every time it happens,
100.
Taylor takes it badly and takes it out on Lee. Maximum followed by a ton. And he's throwing those darts like they're on fire.
100.
I'm not sure he'd be a superhero, but the way he's flinging these
60.
darts, wouldn't be able to place being in Mortal Kombat.
$140.
A brilliant
Scott,
leg
you
from
require
both.
161.
But Taylor, in every
82.
sort of capacity here, he
Lee, you
should
require
get a look at that 79.
131.
I'm saying that very cagily, and now I'm saying it very confidently. 79 for 3-2 and
81.
5 consecutive
Scott, you require
breaks of throw.
79.
Double top. All the way from
Shot
the
on the fifth
left-hand
leg,
side.
Scott Taylor.
What a dart that is. I'm not entirely certain where he threw it from. We know it's from the left-hand side, but he's probably
Sixth
thrown
leg,
that from
Scott to
over
throw
8
first.
feet away.
Game on.
And the rest. He was right over the side, Lee Cox, when he saw him making that move.
180.
Would have thought he had a golden opportunity. Instead, it's now big opportunity to Scott
140.
Taylor, opening with a max. Lee Cox just keeping hold of his coattails, hoping that an opportunity will present
100.
itself.
$140.
Levels us up.
$81.
That pattern, that trend.
140.
The break to throw
Scott,
could
you
continue. A
require
hat trick of 140s for Lee Cox. But it could have ended with a 140.
120.
So Taylor stays well
Lee
away
require
from the
81.
darts in the board. That could have carried that into the treble 20. Double six for Lee Cox. He's had 2 darts to save
Scott,
this
you require
match.
20.
And the
Game shot.
game
And the match.
goes on.
Scott
No
Taylor.
more. Lee Cox, a fine effort there. Brought it back with a hat trick of 140s. Give himself an opportunity. 2 darts in hand to get that back to a level game and make himself favourite with the advantage of throw. But it's Scott Taylor who gets over the line in the end. A nice 13 darter from Scott Taylor, who is now Mr. Perfect. He has gone through the card today. He's continued that form from Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday in his Group A campaign, but now he's turning those performances into results.
Indeed he has. Scott, many congratulations. 4 wins from 4, and it just felt like a real good night at the office for yourself.
Yeah, I was fine in the first start. I had a few bounce outs earlier on, but I don't know what was going on with them, but played pretty well overall, so I'm happy with how I played. So.
I mean, it really was the whole package tonight. The power scoring was there, but the doubling was absolutely delightful.
Yeah, it's something I've been playing really, really well away from Challenge Tour and Q Score. I didn't really perform that way I've been doing, but I'm happy with how they're going at the minute.
So was it almost like a point to prove this week in the fact that you know what you are capable of, but maybe not shown it to your full potential?
Only to myself, though, really. Only to myself. I know I've been playing really, really well, but just not coming out when I need it to, really.
So did yesterday kind of give you a bit of a bee in the bonnet, considering that you're in the race and you just dropped out of the
It
last?
was more Tuesday. I know I messed up Tuesday. I played really bad, so it was my own fault.
You played with real venom tonight. We were looking at it from the camera that points at you, and we saw borderline anger from you, and you were taking it out on the sides. I wouldn't have wanted to be that bored tonight, that's for sure.
It seems to when I throw them harder, it just seems to go in better. So try as much, do that as much as I can, really.
Well, if you throw them any harder than you did tonight, that board's in trouble, that's for sure. Well played.
We're going to show some of your best moments from tonight. This was the 1-4-1 out against Lee just there. And let's say those ton plus finishes and things like that was really part of your Arsenal repertoire, wasn't it?
Yeah, the tops have been winning tonight, so I'll take that every time it comes. If top goes in, I normally win, so I'll take it every time.
You won one of your games tonight with 4 double tops out of 4 shots.
Was that against Dave?
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often, right?
Don't want to lose to Dave.
And you've been very close with Dave for years. Obviously, you know, there's been a marriage there and a best man. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it is. I was the best man at his wedding, like, but you can't be going home losing to one of your best mates, can you? So never live that down.
Just say that the loyalty there's gone a different way, is it, on the back of tonight? So obviously a good night tonight into tomorrow. I suppose a case of just try and carry on as much as possible and build some momentum possibly through to Saturday night.
Yeah, the job's not done yet. I want to win all 8 games, so just take one game as it comes, throw one dart as it comes, and that's all I can do, really.
Scott, many congratulations on tonight. We'll let you go. Many congratulations on this evening. All right, let's have a look at what else has happened this evening then, Paul, because it has been a blockbuster night of darts. It is fair to say. These are the results then from the 10 matches that we've seen. And interestingly, when you have a look at that graphic, only 2 games went against the darts tonight. They were both won by Scott Taylor.
It tells you a lot, doesn't it? And especially when there were so many breaks of throw in that last match as well. Lee Cox, who has only won one game tonight, should not go to bed disappointed because he's thrown the kitchen sink at players, and it just goes to show how really strong this group is. But I love the defiance and I love the spirit that Scott has brought to this group. It's one of, I will not take any defeat on the chin. I am going to get to Saturday night for a 6th consecutive time. I love the way he plays the game. He plays it aggressively. He plays it with real vigour. I've used that word quite a few times tonight. But the fact that he was the only person capable of breaking a game tonight tells you everything you need to know.
And just listening to him in that interview there, it just feels like a different man to maybe the one we saw even 12 months ago on this stage.
Maybe. If we think about what Scott has done in his career, he's won one Challenge Tour event. He's played for his country in the WDF once. Is that a fair assimilation with what kind of talent he's got? Absolutely not. I severely rate that guy. I think he should be up there on the tour on a regular basis, doing the kind of thing that Ricky Evans is doing, that sort of ilk. Somewhere between, say, 32 and 48 in the world. That's where he should be minimum for me. But when he's got his game clicking, he's a dangerous customer. I'm just glad that we've got him here because so we can watch him and listen to him in interviews like that. He's been great tonight.
He most certainly has. Well, let's talk elsewhere then. Begin with Ross Montgomery. First night here on the Super Series stage. How do you think he'll assess things overall?
I think he will probably look at tonight the same way that James Wilson looked at Group C 2 weeks ago. He said, ooh, this is pretty difficult. And considering the level that Ross brought at times, he had the kitchen sink thrown at him and wasn't able to do anything in the first couple of games. But walking away with 2 points instead of 4, that will be quite bitter. He should have won that second game in the second half against Ted Everts. And I think even Super Ted is trying to figure out how indeed he got away with 4-3 in that one. But Montgomery is one of those players who always has this ability to dig deep, and he's going to have to come Friday night.
In terms of Ted Everts, I suppose it must be really frustrating for him at the minute. He was in cruise control of Group A, drops into Group B, and you could just sense that tonight again just didn't quite go the way he would have liked it to have gone. No,
I don't think he started very well at all, but he was able to respond after that. Sometimes you've got to have this quality of getting points maybe when you're not playing your best darts. Now, Ted is not playing his best darts. Mm-hmm. He may be smarting from the fact that he didn't win the Group A situation with Białowski and Taylor all in the mix. However, he's walked away with 4 points tonight, and did he warrant 4 points with his performance levels? Probably not. But he's got them, and he's got a great chance of making Saturday now.
He most certainly does. Just overall, before we look at the table, what would be your assessment of the night as a whole?
Thoroughly enjoyable. I think where every now and again we talk about how great a group could be. Tonight has not disappointed. 8 of the 10 games have been won with 90-plus averages. We haven't had massive ton-plus averages, but we've had an awful lot of quality in that 90-plus range, which is very likely with this kind of quality. And we were talking about Taylor, one of our colleagues here at the Super Series, came up with an incredible statistic. More than 2/3 of the games this week have been won with 90-plus averages. Going into Friday, that is remarkable.
Some may say that was a tailor-made stat. Anyway, less of the corny puns. Let's get straight into the table, shall we? And tell you what's happened at the halfway point of the group. Scott Taylor leads the way, 8 points to his name. 1 victory tomorrow night will guarantee his place into the finals. David Evans and Ted Everts on 4 points. Lee Cox, Ross Montgomery with the 1 win, but goodness me, is it all going to be to play for tomorrow?
Yeah, I think Scott's in a great position, but I love his attitude, one of experience and knowing that he's still got a job to do. He wants to win all the games. And that's the way you should approach it. Don't think about the fact that I just need to win 1 or 2. Win them all, get the job done, and then just spoil everybody else's party. Taylor's going to make it. As for everybody else, it's all to play for.
Should be a fun day tomorrow. Thank you for your company today. We'll do it all again tomorrow. 1 o'clock, we're going to restart on the Super Series YouTube channel. Well, Taylor, top of the pile as far as Group B is concerned. His top sitting was delightful. In a few weeks' time, the players involved will be hoping that their tops are in top shape.
It's double 18. Oh, it's a perfect 9 dart, and he's been threatening all day.
He is Jim McEwen!
Oh, yeah. Love that. And so does he.
The way he reaches the final. Double 12, but Kevin Painter
on the match.
to seal
Kevin
the spot
Painter.
in style.
And that is a 170 checkout.
Robert Thornton.
It's double 6.
Game shot on the 5th leg.
What a tidy shot that is.
Game shot on the 5th
Masterful
leg.
from Mark Durbridge.
Durbridge.